Yo, 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 yo. What's up, what's up, what's up? Give up the rock. And hello to my fellow revolutionaries. You know who you are. And welcome to today's live stream. It is now Monday evening or Monday afternoon where I am. And it is the 18th of May. So I hope you all had a good weekend. Unless you're from a part of the world that is still enjoying the weekend, then I hope you are enjoying your weekend, and I hope you got away from the clutches of capital and was able to enjoy some of that short-lived freedom that we have in our daily lives. Hobo Joe, yo, yo, yo. Hope you are well, good sir. And this morning was fucking all over the place for me. So I apologize for the late stream today, but it was, absolutely all over the place. I had a couple of things come up, but there is still time to chase the hot topic at the moment. I think it's a hot topic, and it's something that I want to investigate and look at today, which is the whole China situation. I know, like, Trump left Beijing at the end of last week. I want to say Friday, probably when we were all signing off for last week's streams. And what's the fallout? Like, what actually happened on this mystical Chinese adventure? There was some huge personalities, as we discovered and investigated last week, like basically the biggest who's who of American capital, like Wall Street representatives and big tech representatives there to kind of, do business with China, somehow open up China more to the market than they've already got them. Like, Trump is really like Nixon 2.0, and so he's doing some big stuff, shaking up the currencies of the world. He's doing some big stuff, shaking up U.S.-China relations. Been listening to good old Punters Politics podcast, listening to the debate he had on there. Makes you true hate property developers. Interesting. Yeah, someone brought that up the other day. I think it was like Friday that they saw him debating some random, or he had what's that guy's name, Dennis, on from Australia Institute, and they were having a whinge potentially about negative gearing, but yeah, property developers. I actually had a property developer tell me once when I was in government. He was like, look, and I'm just a filthy capitalist. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. But like, he wore it with a badge of honor. But like, he was like, yeah, I'm just a filthy capitalist. But like, we got to get our approvals out so we can turn over construction and quickly and deliver these homes for people. I'm like, you don't care about delivering homes. You're delivering a product. Homes are arbitrary. It's just, it's completely arbitrary. Richard Dennis and Jack Henderson. Okay. Heidi the Sausage in the house. Gang, how are you? Everybody else, if you are there and able, say hi. If you're just lurking today, fair enough. Typical. Yeah, I know. But yeah, he didn't care. Like, he could have been producing anything in the construction industry. It was just a product. But like, he admitted that he was a filthy capitalist. Like, he said it in jest, but like, behind every joke, there's something of truth, whatever the fucking saying is. All right, back to China. China. I just want to get an update on, like, if anything's come about from that whole debate. Like I said, there was the who's who of the American capitalist classes, the height of the bourgeoisie there. So I'm sure they were brought across for a good reason, but like, I guess us plebs will never know really what happened in that scenario, because it seems all the mainstream media can really talk about is China versus Taiwan now, which is, a bit outrageous if you ask me, but like, it is what it is, whatever. If all they can commit themselves now to do is talk about World War III and whether the West should stand up for Taiwan against big bad China, etc., is that all we can get out of this historic meeting, then so be it. So let's just have a quick gaze, shall we, at what the mainstream media has said about this, what's come out since the event, and then we're going to get into another Professor Zhang lesson into this. He's given his predictions about Chinese and American relations, like after this visit. He actually made these predictions, I think, before any of the news came out. So it'll be interesting to see how the cookie crumbles in terms of his predictions, because I think it's just fascinating stuff. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's a great conversation starter and a launch point for your own further analysis. From what I've seen, Xi played Trump hard. Yeah, it just depends what like stories you get from people. People like, yeah, Trump was getting played by Xi, or like, and then there's reports that like, Xi insulted Trump, and like, it's fucking. It really is just theatre for us plebs at the end of the day. I really want to know what they actually debated, like what it is that they're planning on doing. Why would you send financiers, like the heads of Wall Street, over to debate with China? Are you trying to get them open to foreign capital? Like we talked about last week, China has done an incredible effort, structured its entire economy to not let foreign capital come in, like Wall Street, and control China. And like, is this what's going on here? They're going to open up to Wall Street and let foreign capital come in and rule the roost? That's some scary shit, if you ask me. Like, if that happens, like, China will become like enmeshed in this neoliberal world, and like any pretense of it being, some aspirational socialist government or whatever is completely out the window if it chooses to meld with the American free market system. But I guess time will tell. Heidi, yes, they are rubbing hands together. When there's any new housing, government rebates, they get to charge extra. Yes, and that's why he's a filthy capitalist. Go Xi, on your legend. China, Dilemma's in the house. How you going? China's plan for do nothing, keep winning continues to work for them. Yeah, very interesting. Hell no. Stephen Bradbury versus Reagan. Xi said the US is the hottest country in the world right now. Get fucked. Tell me that's a joke, bro. Could you imagine if Trump came out with it, like interviewing him on Air Force One or something? And you're like, and Xi said it. Everyone's saying it, but Xi actually said it. He said, your country is so hot. It was dead for 4 years under Biden, but it's so hot now. I time-stamped it? Get fucked. Is this the link that you sent? He actually said it? He said the thing in Cliffs and Riffs? This is the one? It's official. Oh, God. All right. I've actually got that lined up first where you time-stamped it. I thought it was, like, crucial. It's just him saying it's so hot. It's so goddamn hot. Oh, man. So good. So hot right now. China is a reliable trading partner. Got to give them that. From rare earths to rare halal human organs on the black market. A deal is a deal. And Trump loves a deal, doesn't he? Doesn't discriminate. Wookie is laughing. Loves your commentary there, Dilemmas. Hobo Joe, I see that Purple Pingers have brought the Socialist Party to New South Wales. Really? And what shoulders to stand on as well. Thank you, Purple Pingers. Sign me up. Hey, sign me up. Let's go and stream with Purple Pingers. That'll be fun. All right, let's have a listen to Trump in good old Trumpian fashion. I thought this was a strategic announcement. Nope. It's Trump saying something's hot. That's what we all need in our fucking life right now. Wookie, afternoon all, weird late start. Yes, apologies for the weird late start. Something came up this morning. I didn't even get a chance to get to my lappy in order to say, hey, we're going to be late. Laugh Jeff brothers, how are you? Hope you're well. Let's listen to Trump, shall we? Let's get a good clip of this.
It might not have been from him. It was somebody, but they talked about the decline. But he said today, and he said it very publicly, he said the U.S. was declining for the last 4 years.
He said the 4 years.
He said what President Trump has done in the last 15, 16 months has been virtually a miracle. He said we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. But he said that it was
oh my
decline.
God, he actually said it. He said the thing. Oh, it's so good. I wonder how that translates from Mandarin. President Trump, you have the hottest country right now. It actually means that your country's on fire. That's a bad thing. Actually, when you translate that from Mandarin, it means you're burning the place down and you better do something about that. No. I'm pretty sure he meant it was hot. So goddamn hot. Everyone's saying it. So goddamn hot. Victorian socialists might get my vote for state election. Hey, I'd vote for Purple Pingers. You and me, Hobo Joe. Let's do it. No, I've watched the Party Line podcast with Pingers. Would not recommend unless whinging commies are your cup of tea. Hey, mentally ill communists. Do they have a podcast? Dilemmas. That's crazy. Is it any good? Should we watch it on a far left something? Let's do far left Tuesdays or something. And then you can make fun of mentally ill communists' dilemmas. What is it called? Party Line podcast. Oh my god, I so want to see Purple Pingers now. Party Line podcast. Enough making fun of the NSN. Alright, we're gonna leave Banana Boy alone. It's time to listen to Purple Pingers. Yes, they do. It's exactly what you think it is. Good Marxian analysis. Is that what you're saying, Dilemmas? I know you love it, bro. Humiliation. Game over. Alright, let's do this.
Country.
Oh God, I gotta hear him say it
Virtually a
again.
miracle. He said we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. But he said that it was a declining country. Under Joe Biden, he said we had a seriously declining.
He never said
country,
that.
which we did.
Come on, can I get a
People-
fucking show of hands here? Does anyone actually think that she was like, yeah, under Biden, she under Biden, your country sucked. It was declining, but now it's so hot. It's so hot. Oh, come on. He can't be serious.
pouring in from all over the world, from prisons and everything else. He said what President Trump has done has been a virtual miracle. It's the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is, yeah.
And it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. He actually did it. Well, if it's complex philosophical discussion you're after, maybe not, but there's a lot of, whoa, rich people, whoa. Hey, come on. Dilemmas, we can get behind that, bro. What's wrong with bagging on Richies? Richie rich. Hey? Even if they do give out fucking planes to politicians, they deserve it, don't you reckon? Where's my goddamn plane? What an embarrassment. Spandong, soy boys crying on the phone is what I expected. Soy boys. The frog doesn't realize the water has been boiling. There it is. Scathing insight for you there. Fucking scathing. All right, let's go to see. I just want someone to surmise what actually happened in that visit. Let's see if we can get something along those lines, shall we? Before we move on to watching Professor Jiang rip it up with some crazy ass predictions. Should we go BBC or PBS? Should we go American kind of broadcaster or British broadcaster? If Ravy Baby's in the house, I just said BBC and you didn't respond. So I hope you're okay. Captain Bucket, remember last week when I said he will achieve nothing? Yeah, but like, come on, he took all those billionaires with him. What was it, like $1 trillion, $13 trillion worth of fucking CEOs with him, and they did fucking nothing over there? I refuse to believe it, Captain Bucket. I refuse. Like, even if it was just pageantry, right? Can't you just take 4 of them? Not like 12 of the hottest CEOs. They're so hot. I'm being censored. That's what you get for making fun every time I say BBC. I'm going to say it again. BBC. In and around the mouth. Gum and Cheese Wing. How you going? Hey, how's it going? I see we're looking at China and the US. Yes. PBS, less annoying? Fair enough. At least you have a methodology. and logic to your criticisms. Pingers just wants to redirect the government's monopoly on violence and to seize private property. And what's wrong with that, dilemmas? Come on, bro. Join the fucking revolution. We'll just get someone else, just not purple pingers at the front. We'll get Rennick, bro. Let's get Rennick for the boys. Damn poor people fighting for a better world for all. Yeah. All right, so I guess we're going PBS then. Hey? As if we're not taking this to Fox Business. Like, I want like a half serious analysis, right? I was only asking about where my plane is. Eyes crying. What about the old people? All right. Let's do PBS first, and then we'll get onto Professor Jiang then, shall we? All right. Let's do this. I can't believe you got censored for that. It wasn't even about BBC. It's just about where's my plane. Yeah, where's my fucking plane? Huh? Where's my goddamn plane? All right, Washington Week with The Atlantic. This one's called Did Xi get what he wanted out of the Trump China visit? We'll find out. You've changed, man. Fox Business is the true source of it. You know, it is, because how many times have we watched it where, like, apart from it being outrageous, but like every now and again we watch it and they give the fucking game away. Like, they say it. Like, they say the quiet part out loud and we're all like, whoa, no way, man. All right, let me get something serious. No, sorry. Let me get something middle of the road, manufacturing consent machine. What happened? Then let's do Fox Business for the shits and the giggles. You've changed, man. I am going through a rough time. Thank you for streaming, for the distraction. No worries. Anything for you. Okay, and we're all going to pool our funds together to buy you a plane, Ravy. Just for you. It's for you and the BBC. All right, let's do this.
Good evening and welcome to Washington Week. On his way back from China, President Trump told reporters, "We've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle. One thing that wasn't settled was China's support for Iran. Another unsettled issue, American arms sales to Taiwan, and more broadly, American support for Taiwan. Just as Trump's backing of America's European allies..."
The love's pouring in, Ravy. Solidarity. We hope you are okay.
This is an open question. Another unsettled issue, American arms sales to Taiwan, and more broadly, American support for Taiwan. Just as Trump's backing of America's European allies is an open question, so too is his support for Taiwanese freedom. Joining me tonight to discuss the future of the planet, Peter Baker, the chief White House correspondent at The New York Times. Susan Glasser is a staff writer at The New Yorker. Mark Mazzetti is a Washington correspondent at The New York Times. And Nancy Youssef is a Pentagon correspondent and staff writer at The Atlantic.
Nancy Youssef, eh? I wonder what she thinks about Is Not Rail.
Thank you all for joining me. The future of the planet will be discussed tonight. Peter, it seems like Xi Jinping got what he wanted out of the summit. That fair?
Well, he was the host. He was the dominant figure here, right? Trump was the supplicant in a way, coming to his territory, to his turf. And he didn't give anything away as far as we know.
True insights there. Thank you very much.
Right now, you never know if there are secret agreements that we don't yet understand. But certainly Trump did not get a breakthrough out of it, did not get any cooperation on the Strait of Hormuz, did not get any large trade deal. And Xi got at least something of what he wanted in terms of Taiwan, some ambivalence at the very least on the part of the president.
Yeah. What could China do in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well,
Xi got what he wanted, Trump got nothing. Like, what did he get? Like, has anyone seen any actual news come out about like what they actually dealt with on this fancy trip? Or all of us plebs just to be like, oh, well, in fact, they talked about Taiwan. She made it very clear about Taiwan. They spoke about it right. Like, we already know about all this stuff. What did they really talk about? What was on the fucking agenda? What are the deals? Come on. We're just not supposed to know. We're not allowed to know. It was like when the Iran war happened this time around. And like I was trying to get all the footage from like, because they were striking in Israel. And I was like, there's fucking all this footage of them striking all over the Gulf. And like all the footage of them striking Iran. And I was like, there must be some footage of Israel getting hit. Because they're talking about it, but we can't see it. And you guys were all like, yeah, you're rookie. Nobody ever gets to see what happens in Israel. They have a media blockout. And I was like, damn. It's like a media blockout on what Trump and Xi actually talked about. They just talk about like Taiwan and stuff. They don't care. Apparently he got Trump to back down on defense of for Taiwan. Well, apparently he just said, hey, this is a fucking red line for us. It is the reddest of the red line. It's so red, it's hot. Don't fucking touch Taiwan. And like Trump's been like, you know, teetering around the edges of with Taiwan ever since he's told them that they need to calm the fuck down. Hey? And like, you know, reunification is not as bad as everyone's making it out to be. She mogged Trump. She got a chance to mog on Trump. Big wins for China. Governments keeping secrets from their people they claim to represent. Well, I never. Yeah, I know. But like these guys speak about it. Like, did you hear his rhetoric? He was like, oh, she got everything you wanted and Trump got nothing. Well, like if you know what it is, like tell us. Tell us what it is. Tell us what these things... What was the deal? Have they decided to trade on something in particular? Like, apparently there's some Boeing deal. Maybe. There's really no fucking proper details of it. Media blackout, like, it's obvious, but then it's like, fuck, man. It dawns on you sometimes. When you bear in mind there are so many anti-imperialist struggles you will just never hear about. Yes. Yeah. They want to shine light on things that are not part of, or shouldn't be in the manufacturing consent machine. They're gummy cheese wing. Eh? Very interesting.
They have a little impact on Iran, obviously. They, over the years, have been one of Iran's bigger customers, and they could, in fact, play it either way. They could pressure Iran to come to the table and make some concessions, or they could, in fact, supply them with weapons to help them fight the war against us, and that's the question there.
You point to Mark Mazzetti like he's the weapon supplier.
He's the weapons
We'll
guy.
get to that question in a minute of weapons supplier. But Nancy, let me ask you. So, playing on this, if you're Taiwan,
I honestly think that's it. China got a chance to show their superiority and America is losing influence. This was a dog and pony show to emphasize that. So Trump went fucking halfway across the world to be fucking humiliated. With all of his most, like the biggest members of the bourgeoisie, just so they could be like, you are China's bitch now. Like, that's it. That seems like incredible. Like, I'm ready to take the whole dog and pony show. Like, you know, apparently there was a real meeting that was going on between Scott Bessent and his Chinese equivalent in South Korea at the exact same time. And that's probably where all the real stuff happened. So I'm happy to take that this was a bit of pageantry. But, like, it's still symbolic for what's happened. Like, bringing those types of people. There's obviously an American interest in opening up China again and trying to financialize it and, like, trying to bring its tech to China, which China has been kind of closed, very closed economy, a planned economy. They've been adversarial to foreign interference, and I just want to know what all these big wigs were doing in the rooms, if they were just there for some pageantry. Like, they were just there for a succulent Chinese meal. They just wanted the fucking 10-course banquet. Like, can't they do that in Australia? Can't they do that in America? Like, go to fucking Yum-Cha or something? Do you think this administration even realizes they're declining or what? I mean, can't imagine Trump would realize that maybe the spoos in the background. I guess, yeah. Like, there's way too much ego to take it realistically. I guess it just matters. I'll take it seriously, sorry. I guess it just matters what we mean by declining. Am I right? Sarsaparilla Jane's in the house. How you going? Hope you're well. I bet money that was just a deal for China to buy American oil rather than Iranian. Yes, I've heard about that. And like apparently like something to do with Boeing. They want some Boeing. They want some planes. The Chinese are happy to take some planes. But that deal wouldn't look good on Fox. Right. Dog and Pony Show come one trick pony show. The administration doesn't care about progress. They're all career politicians. A lot of them used to be Democrats. And jump ship to ride the Trump train. When it all falls, they'll take their money and run. Fair enough. And like, what a way to set yourself up for the future as well. Hey, get in on the Trump administration. Because like they're making some bank at the moment. The Trump family, people in the Trump administration. They're making bank, baby. Just robbing the place. All right. I don't know. I'm not liking this interview already. But like, I'll give it another couple of minutes and then we'll go Fox business for Hobo Joe. China will on-sell it to us. Yeah.
It's government right now. How are you feeling about America's commitment to your security?
I think uneasy for a couple reasons. One of the things that emerged from this was the president was unwilling to even talk about Taiwan until he was on the plane headed home. They've been waiting for months for this $14 billion arms package, and we saw more ambivalence from the president about funding that. And the unwillingness to sort of definitively say that the U.S. is ready to stand by its policy. President Xi was willing to definitively say that any involvement by the United States would lead to a clash. It was not reciprocated by the United States in its willingness to equally say that it would continue to defend its position. So I think if you're in Taipei right now, there's reason to be nervous. In addition, militarily, the United States has moved a lot of its naval resources to the Middle East. And so some of the defenses that we have had in the region, some of our commitment militarily has shifted towards the Middle East.
And the U.S. has also spent down some of the stockpiles of the missiles fired by these weapon systems, correct?
That's right. So a lot of the air defense systems.
I'm writing a letter to my local poly now asking about more Mandarin in schools. You know, I think there are a lot of schools out there that actually teach Mandarin, to be honest. It was all like Japanese back in the day because the future was going to be Japanese. And then like a lot of schools moved towards that. This is all speculation. Mandatory, yes, that's right. God damn, make it mandatory. Yeah, this is all speculation. Talk about what actually happened. I want to know what the fucking... the devil is always in the detail. I want to know what these leaders of the world economy, like the heights of the bourgeoisie, what they actually talked about. God damn. It's just pissing me off. All right, let's do another one. Shall we get Fox Business in on this? I don't know if there's any Fox Business suggestions here. How did Trump outwit Xi? That's what it'll be. Fox Business, here we go. Xi hits Trump with stunning move. Oh, it's pro Xi, this one. There you go. This one's for you, Hobo Joe. Xi hits Trump with stunning move at US-China summit recap. And it's our favorite panel as well. I loved learning Japanese, not going to lie. I was a terrible student in Japanese. Can I just say? My time. Your time has come, bro. Let's do this. Market check.
Checking futures, and when you think of all the craziness going on in the world, you might think they're down more than they are. They're not flat. They are in the red, but they're pretty close to flat. The Dow is down just 18, S&P down 7, NASDAQ is down 20.
Fox Business checking out on the Trump train. Yeah. All right, they'll be back to slamming Xi in the next piece.
4. Now, this South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham says it is time for President Trump to consider changing course in Iran. Retired 4-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, wonderful to see you. We've had about a month of this very uneasy ceasefire with no resolution of opening the Strait of Hormuz or eliminating the enriched uranium. Is it time to try something else?
Talking to David.
Well, President Trump wrapping up his first day of meetings with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and the deals are already coming.
On behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have.
When's my mystery travel video to the USA? Fucking never happening. I don't think I'd get into the US anymore. Like if they checked my phone and like saw a couple of saucy or spicy memes, like I don't know if I get in. Like all I have to have is like one picture of JD Vance looking like a baby. And like done. Yeah, the deals. Like what are the deals? They're rolling through the window. We just can't talk about it. I can't stand the fake on Fox. It is Fox. You can't separate the two. They are one now. The US position is there is one China. It's called strategic ambiguity. It fucking is. It is strategic ambiguity for sure. And why is Captain Cumbucket's picture a picture of a US Civil War general who torched the South? I'll let Captain Bucket answer that question just for you, Saint Chi. They'll bring up my profile and be like, do you know this goblin? Stream with Hassan, wear a shock collar. Could you imagine? While he's talking to me, he's like zapping me. Fuck, that's hilarious, bro. Sit down, shut up. Oh my God, that's fucking hilarious.
Amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, and they're here today to pay respects to you and to China, and they look forward to.
Do you condemn Roe v.? I choose to say nothing.
Trade and doing business, and it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf.
Xi telling American CEOs and the president that China will open its door wider to U.S. businesses, and it's already begun. The U.S. reportedly just cleared more NVIDIA chip sales, and Trump says China will buy 200 Boeing jets. As for Iran, the two sides agreed Tehran can't control the Strait of Hormuz, and the White House says Xi is now considering buying more U.S. energy.
President Xi,
like this is the most information I've gotten so far. Again, more chips. Tehran, big no in the Strait of Hormuz, eh? What else did he list there that we haven't heard? No, we heard about the Boeing one. We've heard that they're going to get some more planes, but then they're talking about getting oil off the US. Very interesting.
would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer.
If Geordies can do an American tour, you'd be fine. He's doing an American tour? That's crazy. Well, only doing shows in blue cities. Interesting.
He said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be a help. If I can be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open.
Of course he would.
Well, Deroy, it sounds pretty cordial around those parts, and apparently there's some deal-making happening. But are you happy to hear that?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing when the President of the United States and the leader of the second biggest economy in the world are getting along well and not beating the hell out of each other. I think it's a lot warmer and friendlier and more cheerful than expected. I saw as the President arrived, you had all these little Chinese kids jumping up and down, waving flags, jumping up and down a lot. They're probably exhausted by now. But it's good also to see Xi Jinping say that he...
The analysis from Fox Business, so good. Yes, those kids were jumping up and down when they saw Trump. They'd probably be really tired now. Yes, if they were still jumping, I'm sure they would be exhausted. Thank you, Fox Business. So good. Bro, China's the biggest economy. Get over it. You know how many times we've heard this in the analysis as well over the last, week or so? Is it just they keep on referring to China consistently in American media and, I guess, Western media generally as how China is the second economy. It's interesting how they're shaping that thought as hard as possible. Why does it sound like Fox is scared of China? LOL. Hey. This is really Cold War 2.0, not World War 3. Well, I guess we'll find out in 50 years' time when we're all looking back on this.
with President Trump that Iran may not have an atomic weapon. I'd like to see him follow through with that by saying that to the Iranians, if any Ayatollahs who are still alive, he can talk to, we're not going to provide.
You can stop jumping when Trump leaves. We have heard that Trump likes watching kids jump around. Yes, we saw that, didn't we? Almost live. And his appreciation of little jumping children. That was uncanny, that was. I can't believe it happened.
And weapons, you need to sit down with the President of the United States and come up with some sort of a peace agreement. And as I've said about 6 weeks ago on this very set, I think one of the things that could be very helpful is for the Chinese to send warships into the Strait of Hormuz along with the U.S., with our NATO allies, et cetera, and open the Strait of Hormuz, get those ships out. I mean, those sailors, some of them they're practically starving. They've not had any food or any movement there in weeks. China gets most of its petroleum and gas.
50 years, I barely survived the weekend. I'll be gone before 50 years, thank God. All right, fine. Like 30 years max. We'll know.
Through the Strait of Hormuz is very much in their national interest to do that. It would be very helpful for them to come in and help us out with that effort.
Well, I just would note, I don't know if when China moves warships in, if they move them out real quickly, but we could discuss that if others at the table want to.
They might stay, which would be a problem, but hopefully they can move things along there.
That's the problem.
So here's, Taylor, I've been wanting to ask you this question since the first hour.
Has something happened to the stream, Wookie? Is everyone still with me? I think I've fixed my technical problems now, so I'm feeling like it should be okay now. The Dow is 50, though. The Dow. Just let me know if something's happened. I'm with you. Okay. Sweet. All good for me. Thank you. The Dow.
Talk about mythos. We were talking.
Imagine us as a 100-year-old being interviewed by the news. So Clavacula got maxed by the trial judge. That's what we'll be talking about when we're 100. Eh? Do you remember when? The US economy is 50% larger than China's, with 25% of the fucking population. Where do you get your numbers from? Like, honestly, on what measure? Man, I'm being heavily censored today. R.I.P. Have you put anything in the censored comments then? Like, honestly, what measure do you use? Like, what propaganda machine do you get in on that is just like the American economy is 50% larger than China's? By like what measure? By all of the trading that's done on Wall Street, like all the speculation and like the magic money, or like the real productivity? Like, what are you looking at? 32 trillion versus 20 trillion. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So it's just a measure of like GDP that you're using, basically. Which is sound economics. Don't get me wrong. Am I right? What did you say? This boring ass journalists have their... Sorry, I want to see this boring ass journalists have their coffees spiked with very strong laxatives, give them a huge cassive script, and watch the media model fall apart. I wonder why you didn't get that comment through. Could only imagine. GDP by the World Bank. Then compare the populations. Yes. Majored in economics and Chinese. Sorry, your apology is taken. That's fine. No need to apologize next time, Senchi. Just wondering what you're using there. Mr. Air's 100 years old. Yes, it was quite a troubling time. Chats as 100-year-olds, bro. We out here age maxing. All right, back to it. But like you trust that GDP gives you an accurate measure. Like, you know the differences between, as an expert on China, right? You know the differences, the significant differences in the American and the Chinese economy, and you think that it can just be boiled down to measures of GDP, right? Like they're so different, in what they do and produce for the world. Like the fact that America, what about like debt ratios and things like that? No, it can't. but there is nothing better. Okay, fair enough. We are human. God, I hope so. God, I hope so.
Talking about deals. We got the NVIDIA chip deal. Now, I know it's for H200s, which are not the Cadillac chip. It's more the Buick chip, I guess. Okay. I don't know.
Is that lower quality?
Yes, it's a little lower end. Buicks are fine. Okay, so we got the deal. But we had this conversation about, you know, how should we feel about AI? And do we fear it? Is it helpful to us? And I don't know where we landed, but we were kind of talking about, well, it kind of depends who's deploying it and for what purposes. And I just wonder, do you love technology deal making with China that gives them chips to keep moving forward on AI?
I do. I have this probably horrible, endless optimism that even if they get the H200s and they try to do it, I just believe in our capitalist system that we can out-innovate China, always. I mean, you heard Trump there. He brought in...
I love when they talk. You're right, Joe. It's so good. It's so good. I just believe in our capitalist system. We're just going to always out-innovate. Like, China has, like, turned its economy from, like, a peasant society, one of the poorest countries in the world, from, like, what, the 70s, let's just say? A largely peasant population, one of the poorest countries in the world from the 70s to now, let's say 50 years. And they've done that miracle, you know, in 5 decades. And America has been like bouncing around for 200 years with their social experiment of free market capitalism and incredible innovation. And I just believe that capitalism, it's just a feeling, it's just a sense I get, we will always be able to outpace these motherfuckers in China. Like, look, don't worry about what they've done in the last, couple of decades. They've basically revolutionized their society. It's like walking to some sci-fi movie over there. When you get off the plane, unrecognizable sci-fi existence. And it's like, don't worry, capitalism will always outmaneuver whatever the fuck China is, I'm sure. Fox Business checks under their beds for China. Economics is a social science. It's a crapshoot, like sociology and psychology. And knowing that it's a crapshoot, you still rely on this idea that the American economy, by some strange measure, is 50% larger than China's. Like, when the writing's on the wall, like, China services the entire globe and has a trade surplus of $1 trillion, over $1 trillion in 2025. And don't worry, America's economy, we got this. We're still on top, for sure. Man, these people believe China is Marxist, Leninist, LOL. It's always great insight to the topic. Yeah, but this is fucking next level. Capitalism will always innovate better than whatever the fucking Chinese are doing. Crazy. It's capitalism, baby. By some strange measure, you need to realize you are just in denial about it. Okay, fair enough. It's me who's in denial. That's right. It's not some crapshoot style of science, as you've described. It's me. I'm the one who's in denial, of course. I get it. You can criticize it all you want, but I'm not allowed to. Fine. I'll shut up then. And how did China do it? Offloaded all their lowest tier manufacturing to Bangladesh? Like what the West did with China, LOL? Hey? Yes. Well, I think what I was trying to get at was like the way that they've rapidly increased technology, and not only increased their technology to catch up to the West, they are surpassing the West in almost all measures, technologically speaking. So like improving the productive forces, as you've probably heard me say. Here at World Gym, we're better than you, and we know it. It's interesting because, like, fuck, man, I mean, China has capitalism, right? But it's through state-owned corporations. It's weird, but if you were a capitalist, why wouldn't you adapt? I think it's the need of the 21st century, when you have such technology that requires such heavy capital investment to do anything, right? Like, look at fucking AI, for example. Like, you need hundreds of billions of dollars to make that viable. And like with that level of investment, you need state planning in a market system to help out. But like, whatever. Conversation for another time. I agree. I think China is capitalist. I think they are state capitalist. But like, you know, like when China always have a massive advantage because of population. But yes, I'm chairing it. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Like, at what point would you be like, maybe I can profit more if we do this differently? I don't know, man. I mean, if I was in the shows of someone like Elon, for example, or Mark Zuckerberg, the shoes, yes. Yo, 4AS in the house. How you going? Activate the button. Ah, yes. Good call, actually. If you're watching this right now, you're on YouTube and you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. Hey, hit that like. I mean, activate it. Be gentle with it. Caress it. Be nice, etc., etc. Go Van's in the house. Yo, how you going? Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Yeah, who is the US in debt to? China, and Japan, and the UK, and South Korea, and Australia. Like, everybody buys American bonds, right? State control also makes individuals replaceable if you step out of line. Yes, like those evil fucking billionaires, that do fucking questionable things and get thrown in prison. I like a bit of that in my society. China has green light, red light capitalism. Much like Squid Games. Don't get caught up on doing capitalism when the party says stop. But you'd be the capitalist when they say go. Check stream chat. Okay. Oh, yeah, whoops. Wrong one. I'm on the wrong chat. What's this? Captain Bucket. Oh, China versus the United States. Share of global GDP. Let's have a look here. Oh, I wish I didn't have to change that. Boo. If I can duplicate this. Duplicate. Oh, go Van. Baby video game controller sits in a diaper under the... Why does it say it like that? Govan, thank you very much. Noob. Thank you, Govan. You legend. Do appreciate it. Oh, can you get fucked? Fine. I'll do it this way. Let's have a look at your little chart here. Captain Bucket. Hope this is educational. Looks educational. Can you guys say that? United States v. China. China. What are we looking at here? Share of global GDP, 1990 percentage points. Under 5% of global GDP. Up to 2025. Share of global GDP. The United States are rapidly decreasing. And what this is a projection from 25 onwards. Projecting using 5-year CAGR. Do you have any comment to this, Saint Shi? Captain Cum Buckets blowing you out of the water with this chart right here. Just asking for a mate. Just wondering if you had a response. This outrageous propaganda from Captain Bucket here. Where do you get this stuff from, honestly? Doesn't matter if someone buys your debt. They can never let the value fall. They prop it up with their own economy, while the debtor can just print dollars to pay it back. Quantitative easing. Yes. And the inflation will wipe it out. That's one of Dilemma's favorite lines. Yes. Everyone's checking in at the moment. Jingle Jangle Jam. China has industrialized very fast, but very fast industrialization includes its toils and costs on society. For instance, new forms of industrial era poverty exist in China, as in America. Alienation, that's an interesting one. I default to John Nash. Tell me more, please. I don't know who this is. It's capitalism, baby. Momupa in the house. How you going? Hope you're well. Good sir. US debt to GDP is 120%. China is 100%. Japan is 230%. You see industrial economic productivity rise, but also a greater separation of production from consumption. Yes, as in industrial revolution of capitalism, that in a few decades also caused a similar rise in living standards in European life in a few decades with China, like China did, but in the late 19th century also, but also created inequality. Yes, massively. Did someone say alienation? What are you, a commie? Yeah, Jingle Jangle Jams are coming for sure. Alienation being an example of industrial era poverty for us. That's an amazing concept. Think about that one. And how about this? Economic productivity rise, industrial economic productivity rise, but also a greater separation of production from consumption. That's an explanation if anyone has ever wondered why you have things like colonialism and like the expansion of imperial free market societies, why they need colonies and like something like the IMF or whatever to run around the world, trapping people in debt so you can open up new markets, because if you're producing heaps of shit and your domestic population can't consume it, you need to push that shit onto other people. So it's a good explanation for why transnational corporations do what they do, and there are economic hitmen out there, etc., and colonies. Das Kapital, baby. Wookie, if China isn't producing people though, aren't they losing that value we learned about last week? Yes, they will be. But like, why do they have to use that value, which is what I think St. Xi has been trying to demonstrate. Does it really matter if you have value at home or you just use your currency to trap other nations and get them to buy your currency by buying your debt and then just controlling that currency, which is what America does. It doesn't have the same labor value that it used to after the war. It doesn't have the production. But like, yes, China is losing. Its population is getting smaller. But like the effects of that are going to be spread out a little bit. It's not like, tomorrow that's the end of the Chinese race or something. Like there's no difference. Yeah, before colonialism, what you produce and what you consume is directly linked through a familiar and social chain in your direct land. Like there's no difference between consuming and producing also. Yes, incredible, isn't it? Bandsaw or bandit. Why are there no historical paintings or mentions of the panda in China past about 200 years ago? None. What is the panda bloodline and who made them? I have never thought about that, but I'm going to take that on notice. I think this is what he's talking about. China's overall macro debt to GDP ratio, which includes household, corporate, government debt, stands at approximately 290% to 300% of GDP, while official central government debt is relatively modest, around 30% of GDP. The wider economy carries heavy corporate leverage and significant hidden local government borrowing. Primordial Z8K Hassan Abi from AliExpress. Right. Vive la révolution. All right. That is a good one, actually. I'll take that. Why the fuck not? All right. Can we finish this Fox Business piece now? Because I want to get onto Professor Zhang and his analysis of this situation. Because I know how much everybody loves Professor Zhang.
I don't know, estimates from 12 to 15 trillion dollars in market cap just by the 10 to 15 guys sitting behind him. That's half of our economy. Just like there. So if you're telling me this,
it's such an awesome admission, isn't it? They were like, there are fucking, what was it? There's 10 people that went along with Trump on this little holiday, Trump's visit to China, that own 50% of the economy. It's such a good admission that you live like how capitalism really works. You know how people always say, oh, the 1% and the ruling elite and all this sort of stuff. Like, look, in the US, there was a bunch of CEOs that got in a plane and went on a fucking road trip to fucking Beijing. Yeah, let's go with Trump. All right. And they own 50, or they control, and this is the thing about the means of production, they control 50% of the American economy in the hands of like about 10 people traveling with Donald J. Trump to go and shake hands with President Xi. Like, this is an example of how it all works right here. Right here. It's not fucking class conspiracy stuff. There's 10 people traveling with Trump that own or control 50% apparently of America's economy. Fucking mental stuff. Professor Zhang ain't a fucking professor. All right, we'll just listen to Mr. Zhang then. If professor is a little bit, I know it's so controversial, but like, come on. We don't have to imagine it's real, really real. It's gross. It's fucking gross. It's mental, but like, it's a true admission. So like, if people think that you're being conspiratorial when you talk about like the capitalist class or some type of ruling elite, like that's what it is. It's not a fucking conspiracy. There is just about like 10 guys that control 50% of the economy. And it's like, what do you get to do? Like, when you think you live in a democracy and you get to vote, in your local, state, or your federal elections, you think you get control over anything? No. Those 10 dudes have more control over the human race or like your country than like you would ever have from exercising your right to vote. Don't give up, mate. It seems hopeless. Do what you can when you can. Yes. Professor Jiang or Professor Panda. Check his eyes for black patches. He's wearing makeup. I knew it. It's blackface all over again.
those guys, our best and brightest, can't outsmart China. I guess that's where maybe I'm too of an optimist, where I think, yes, AI is powerful, and yes, their version of the mythos could be horrible, but I guess I just believe that we can always out-innovate and that we can always win and outmaneuver, because capitalism inevitably will move faster than communism. A couple things as well, just on sort of that AI. I mean, you talked about that, Brian, the H200s. We have to see if they actually want to follow through with that. You guys, TSMC thinks that this is going to be a $1.5 trillion market now by 2030. So if those companies want sort of access to the market, I think that's where we're going to have to do some deal making with China, because they're going to get their hands on it anyway. So why not let those American companies benefit from it? Or in TSMC's case, a Taiwanese company. Plus, Lauren Simonetti's latest email is coming through.
I read those at 2:15 a.m. after I checked the 2-year
After
Treasury.
you check the bond yields. She's saying that it looks almost full. Iran's storage capacity looks tight.
Ramesh, how you going? Hope you're well. The power of belief, apparently keeping the US alive. The power of belief, that's it. I just believe that capitalism and its innovation is always one step ahead of communism. And that's why I sit here commentating with Fox Business.
Tight. We're almost there.
Okay.
So as we're thinking about economic maneuvering with Iran, there's sort of another piece to the puzzle.
You want in on the debate about chips, technology, AI in China, deal making?
Well, I wonder, because has been reporting that that Iran and China were opening rail transportation more so.
Heard about that.
This was probably 10 days ago. So, okay, the oil storage is near full, but are they able to send oil on tankers?
Can be done.
Right, to China.
Hopefully
and
it's
parts
like California's
unknown.
train and it's not up yet.
No, the train line exists.
Oh, they know how to do them, and okay.
The train line, there's a rail line that exists.
Okay.
It just they're running more trips on said rail line. And this has been a focus of President Trump's policy, even starting in his first term.
You guys, stop. You're killing me. You're killing me. China can't do better than us, right? Communism can't do better than us, right? Right? It puts the lotion on its skin, or it gets the hose again. Oh my god. YouTube blocking me? Oh, man. Really? What you getting blocked for? Maybe it's ravey. Trains are communism. So good. What did you get done for again? Like, sounds gross, but that is how you radicalize people. That is how political action happens. Capitalism causes many of the problems we have in the world at the moment. So harness the disgust people have. We try. We try. We're working on it. One stream at a time, baby. Oh, yeah. All right, back to this commentator.
Iran and Russia, Ukraine, our ability to manufacture cheap drones at volume is a weakness. That if you look at the...
Trains are communism, depends which camps the trains go to. Fuck. Bro. See, communism and, like, I guess what you're talking about, fascism, potentially. Unless you're talking about, like, gulags or something like that. They're a little bit different. Just going to put it out there.
Gains, like Iran, what it was able to do and is able to do with drones. Ukraine still in the fight against Russia because of, or Russia's having trouble defeating Ukraine because of drones. Will we, the United States, ever be able to produce the volume of inexpensive drones that China can? And would we be able to defend ourselves or an entity, an island or a nation, against a drone storm when we don't have a solution against a country that can create and build drones at that capacity?
You could go drones if you want to on that one. You could go oil and whether they're running out of tanker capacity, or we could talk a little bit more about this chip sale thing. And, like, do we love that China's getting our stuff? Do we trust them that the deal making is going to work out as well for us as it might work out for them?
Can I hit a few of those
Hit
by
'em all.
going to this?
Go through them.
But
Connect the
through this
dots.
other avenue of President Trump asking them to open up, right? They're
Yes.
a communist country. They have come a long way in, say, the last 30 years. I saw pictures
Interesting
this
admission
morning of our correspondents in Beijing.
Right? Communism. They've come a long way, but they're fucking communist.
And anchors that are reporting there. And the city looks completely different than it looked when I was there 30 years ago. So they have come a long way. But to maintain their control, they still will have to keep the fundamental pieces of their structure in place. So I think they're gonna open up as much as they can, but they're not gonna do full opening, which actually would.
But if communist, then how come big market? It's the fucking paradox that none of these people can ever wrap their heads around. Like, when they want to, evil communism, but like when it doesn't suit them, eh? Good old market system, that's for sure.
Benefit their people and growth for the country. You know, they don't have gangbuster growth anymore, and actually they've sort of fallen apart upon hard times. And without innovation and without being able to have an industry that will allow them to grow, AI is doing that for us, they're going to be stuck. But I'm just sort of wondering how their system, like, Xi Jinping wants to rule the world, okay? how are you going to do that under this structure? He's trying to change it as much as he can, but fundamentally, unless you would just completely flip the apple cart over, you just can't do it. So I just find that tension very interesting. You're nodding.
Yeah, sure. On the AI piece, there was a really good piece that the New York Post ran. They picked it up from The Spectator, and it was on how much China engages in theft of our AI technology. And it isn't just breaking in and grabbing some chips and running out the door. Very clever stuff. Apparently, they'll set up chatbots, like 1,000 of them. They'll go in and go ask questions and query a particular AI program, and somehow or another learn from the way it answers 1,000 different queries, how it operates, and so on. It's very, very subtle, very sophisticated. So I hope as part of the discussions with Xi Jinping that President Trump tells him to knock this off.
You know, we talked to Victor Davis Hanson yesterday, and he makes this really interesting point about comparing China and Russia and the way that we engaged the Soviets during the Cold War and the way we engage China now.
Who said the Cold War thing, eh? I wouldn't absorb this if I were you. This is entertainment and propaganda, not actually news. Look, I think we're all aware of that, but it's incredibly telling because what you're doing is you're kind of acknowledging, one, that this is propaganda, but then in saying that, you're separating all other media and saying that, oh, there's legitimate media and there's propaganda. All media is propaganda. But this type of propaganda here is actually them saying the quiet part out loud. It's actually fascinating. Most of the time when we watch the usual mainstream media, the liberal media, fuckers, eh? Goddamn liberal media. They try to be objective and impartial, but they're completely not. And so you don't know you're watching propaganda with them, but it's fucking propaganda. It's just as propagandistic as this stuff. But this stuff, like I said, at least you get some fucking truth coming out of these people every now and again, because they are just so fucking such a sellout organization. And so they give you very interesting hints about what the real agenda is or what's really at stake, because they're just so blatantly propaganda. The other stuff, you have to kind of question it. And you're like, oh, maybe they are telling us that what's really happened. But why are they telling us this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But these guys, they give the game away sometimes, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. This is the loud part, out loud, in America these days. Yeah. Fair enough. Human beings can't be impartial. Bias is natural and normal, but yeah. Yes.
And he just makes the observation that we are so much more integrated with our greatest adversary now than we ever were with our great adversary then. And maybe you could say China's different than the Soviets, but he would argue, fundamentally, I don't think so. They're both communists. And so it was interesting to hear his skepticism of wanting to do deals with China right now that he believes just are not going to work out in a reciprocal way. I wonder if that's something we've generationally, because the Cold War is so far in the rearview mirror, we've actually lost the ability to think that way. Thoughts on that?
No, that's a great point. But how do we uncouple? We can't.
See, they give the fucking game away. I'm telling you, man, this stuff is amazing. You wouldn't hear it like this. She was being so honest just then. So they might be a dirty bunch of goddamn commies, but it's incredibly convenient and profitable doing business with them all the goddamn time. So if it takes being an amazing capitalist, or an innovative capitalist economy, if it takes being an innovative capitalist economy in the 21st century to survive off a devil's bargain with evil communists, let's do it every day. Fuck communism. Let's make money. Oh, yeah. Been a blast. I'm back to work. Next time, mystery. Good luck. Bandsaw Bandit. Good luck to you. It's so good. The fucking truth is out there. And she's delivering all the truth today, this one. She's on fire. I told you to watch more American media. These people are crazy. Classic example of the media trying to be impartial when they aren't, is what happened last weekend. Eurovision allowed Is Not Rail to participate in the event. When they banned Russia for genocide, the SBS couldn't cope with the hypocrisy that they put disclaimers all over their news saying, in light of impartiality, we cannot comment on whether countries should or shouldn't be allowed to participate in Eurovision. Really? Is that how they covered their tracks on that one? Yeah, because it was like evil Russia kicked out. Is Not Rail carries out genocide. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Eurovision is incredibly political. But suddenly it isn't when Is Not Rail sponsors involved. I ask you this. Americans aren't worse. People are just crazy. There's just a lot of Americans and they have a lot of money. Okay? In Australia, if you want to see what the press writes next week, read the Australian newspaper. So I've heard about this phenomenon. Gum and Cheese Week, I have heard. They all take the talking points of the most blatant news outlets and twist them for their own marketing or to construe a talking point for capital. But isn't it interesting how they take the talking points and construe them for their own purposes instead of just like picking all of their own talking points? And that's the manufacturing consent machine. Very interesting. All right. Fuck these guys. That's why I try to read foreign source news, BBC for the most part. Hey, that's just propaganda, British style. Don't forget it. Gentleman Turquoise. Who's Gentleman Turquoise? Whose alias is that? Who are you on YouTube or Twitch? Gentleman Turquoise. I would like to know more. All right. Let's go, Professor Zhang. I know everyone loves... Sorry, I can't call him Professor. Somebody got upset about that. I'll call him Mr. something. I'll just call him Zhang. How about that? Watch my clip on stream chat. You get it. Oh, is this the Tim Dillon one? Okay. Let's have a look. Sees, shall we's? Always does that.
Adversarial. We cannot have.
I don't know. That's all I got. Okay.
Have an we cannot have an overtly adversarial relationship with China. It's not going to work. We cannot go to war with China. It will destroy all life on Earth. We cannot treat China like Iran. We're done with that. Let me help everybody. We're done with that. We're not the high school bully anymore. We're not. We're the weird kid who may have a gun. We are not the jock. We are not the quarterback.
Who may have a gun?
The American quarterback century is over. This is not Top Gun. We are not Tom Cruise. You need to wake the fuck up. There's a new Chinese kid in school, and he's kind of American looking. He's kind of ripped, but he's also Chinese, and he's hot, and people want to fuck him. They want to get down, and they want to slurp him. They don't want to slurp us anymore. You know why? Because we've hung out behind the Dairy Queen too long, doing drugs with our friends. We look a little older. We have wrinkles in our face. We're the college kid who keeps going to the high school parties. We're a pedophile, and we may have a gun.
And we may have a gun. Oh, man. This is Tim Dillon. He's pretty funny. We've had some good times with Tim Dillon over the years now. Interesting. Very good. Very good. Now for some lengthy analysis along this part. Bro describing Ethan Klein. Interesting. You love a bit of Ethan Klein, don't you? Or just the drama anyway, I guess. LOL why was True Detective up there? Is that a gun in your pocket, or have you been hanging out in a school zone, America? All right, let's do this, shall we? I'm going to speed it up because it's fucking long. But let's see if there's any good insights from it. Whether you love him or you hate him. Let's see if we can predict anything. Because when did this come out? 3 days ago. So this was during Trump's visit. Let's see if anything's come true since then.
So Trump is in China. This happened about 30 minutes ago, an hour south of us. So Trump came in last night, and this morning he met with President Xi at the Great Hall of the People. And let's just have a quick look. This is him getting out of his limousine. This was brought in from the United States by a military transport. He brought his entire cabinet, including Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State.
Jiang is going MAGA, I heard. Yeah, I've heard him describe himself as a Democrat before, or a liberal, anyway. It's hard to tell. But like, what do you mean going MAGA? Like he's made an announcement, or there's like people analyzing his work kind of thing? Some controversies. Then his paper supported stricter reprisals on outlaws. And an absconded convict called John Jenkins found him on his property, calling him a tyrant, and challenged him to a duel. What the hell? Sorry, the story of Robert Wardle is interesting. He's the co-founder of The Australian, called one of the tycoons of the paper. And he had got challenged to a duel Governor Brisbane and Darling over some controversies. That's pretty crazy. What is the charge, you tyrant? Enjoying a meal? Very good. All right, let's do this.
An American president visited was 9 years ago, November. And as you may remember, so this is a very historical meeting. And as you may remember, after Trump visited Beijing, they started the trade war. And we've been in a trade war ever since. I think that this meeting is very optimistic for US-China relations. A lot has to do with who came with Trump. So this is from Weibo, the Chinese Twitter. And what Chinese are focusing on is who came with Trump. So many of his family members came with Trump, including his son, Eric, his daughter-in-law, Lara. And they were excited about coming to China. Team China, guys, okay? Much more important is the number of business executives who came with Trump. So you have Elon Musk of Tesla, and of course he does a lot of business in China. Tim Cook of Apple also does a lot of business in China. Boeing is trying to secure a $50 billion sale to Chinese airlines. And so these are our three very important business people. And then you have some of the leading financial people in America, including Larry Fink of BlackRock, Steven Schwartzman of Blackstone, Derek Solomon of Goldman Sachs. You have Citigroup, you have MasterCard, and Visa. Okay, and these are...
Oh, look at that. I didn't realize there's someone from Meta that went along as well. Meta. So they had a bunch of tech bros around. Very interesting.
The leading financial companies in America. And altogether, these business executives, if you put all the company's net worth together, their companies are worth over $12 trillion. That's a lot of money. And these are very busy people.
If you were wondering, that is a lot of money.
And quite honestly, I've worked in business negotiations. You do not bring these people together in one room unless you have a mega deal to announce to the world. Okay? So...
What's the fucking mega deal? Come on.
My prediction is that by tomorrow, we should have the broad contours of a US-China grand bargain, where the two...
Do we have the broad contours? Well, we got prediction number 1 here. Nah. Unless somebody knows something that I don't. I've been fishing around for this massive deal. What, 200 Boeing jets or something like that? Like, what was the deal? They're going to open up, they're going to have some chips. They're going to allow the Chinese to buy some more NVIDIA chips. Is that it?
Nations reconcile their differences and they start a new chapter in world history where they work together to stabilize the global economy. So what I want to do today is discuss how we got here, why a grand bargain will happen, and what this grand bargain will look like. Okay? All right. So let's discuss some of the events.
In a mega deal, you had 10 chicken nuggets and a McFlurry with your large Big Mac meal. All right, well, I guess that's what China needs access to, right? A mega deal. They just need to get on the jet with Trump. He has all the Maccas he wants on board.
That led to this meeting between Xi and Trump. This is David Lee from Twitter, okay? And he's talking about like the past month. What happened? So the first thing that happened is that China blocked Manus. Manus is an AI company that Mark Zuckerberg tried to buy. And Manus was incubated in China. And if you're an AI company, you become very successful, you want to go to the United States because that's where all the money is, that's where all the talent is. That's how you become really, really big. But because it was incubated in China, China decided, no, you can't go to the United States because this would set a bad precedent. China is trying to grow its own talent. So this shows the AI war being fought between China and the United States. Okay, so that's one thing that happened. Another thing that happened is that the US imposed sanctions on Chinese companies that do business with Iran, including satellite companies that sell commercial intelligence to Iran on where US bases are, teapot refineries, which take Iranian oil and then convert it into energy that China can use.
What is he reading here? Who the fuck is David Lee? No one has the crystal ball, but there are always indications on how things will develop. Let's see how Trump-Xi meeting will pan out over the next week. Pre-summit moves. China blocked Manus acquisition. US imposed 3 waves of sanctions. Teapot refineries, satellite companies, individual and companies involved in the Iran oil trade. Okay. Right. So China's stopping AI from leaking out to the US. Meta wants Chinese AI. It's incredible, isn't it? All this stuff. The US imposed 3 waves of sanctions on Chinese companies that were assisting Iran.
Okay? And in response, China said, no, you cannot impose sanctions on us. If you impose sanctions on us, and if people comply with these sanctions, then we, the Chinese government, will sanction these people as well. Okay, this is something called the blocking order. And this also seems like an escalation in the US-China trade war, where previously Chinese institutions, banks, individuals complied with US sanctions. And this is the first time the Chinese government said to Chinese people, if you're a Chinese citizen and you comply with US sanctions, then we will sanction you. Okay, so this is a very big deal. NVIDIA was not able to sell chips into China. And this is gonna affect NVIDIA's bottom line. Okay, NVIDIA is right now the world's most valuable company, primarily because AI depends on their chips. Okay, China invited Iranian foreign minister.
Is that true, do you reckon? Like, NVIDIA is the most valuable company? Like, what's he talking about here in terms of what? Like, in terms of value that goes beyond, like, a stock price? Are we talking about actual value in the world economy because everyone's trying to move towards automation, artificial intelligence? And so, like, chips are just incredibly important? Is that the type of value that he's describing there? LOL, he wrote blocking order. Why not? No? But, like, what's that mean? What is valuable? It's the most valuable thing in the world right now. Chips. Everybody needs chips. Stock market capitalization. Is that what you think it is? That's what he means by that? Like NVIDIA? Interesting.
Are actually to Beijing because China is very interested in the outcome of this war between the United States and Iran. Right now, Iran is blocking the Strait of Hormuz, and China depends on 50 to 60% of its energy needs from the Middle East. Okay? Jianzhen Huang was not on the China list. Okay? So before Trump took off, it was announced that Jianzhen Huang, who is the head of NVIDIA, would not come to China. And this is a very big deal because in this grand bargain, what China would want is access to NVIDIA chips, semiconductors, in order to fuel its AI. Okay? The United States and 6 other nations had a war game in the Philippines, and China sent 28 warships. Okay?
Dude, he's got outdated information because Jianzhen Huang did go across in the end. So he must have done this video before they even got there then. Interesting. And Nvidia doesn't currently have those chips. They're going to become obsolete if they don't trade with China.
Trump sent Iran an MOU. Iran made modifications, and Trump said no. Okay, so it seems like the war will only increase in the Middle East. After Iran had responded, China announced Trump's state of visit.
That's an interesting little tidbit as well. Hey, I know it's not even what he's focusing on, but he's saying logically the war must increase in Iran. Not sure if you've heard recently, but Trump has talked about escalating the war with Iran. I wonder what's happening there.
And then yesterday and the day before, He Lifeng, who was a vice premier in China, and Scott Bessent, who's the treasury secretary, met in South Korea to try to negotiate a deal. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that Putin will visit China after Trump leaves. So if you just look at what's happening, it seems as though there's still a lot of friction between the United States and China. What I want to show you today is that all of this you can just ignore. Okay, this is all that's happening right now. But if we use game theory, if we just look at the broad contours of what's happening, we would make much better predictions as to what will happen. Okay, so all this I think is just theater. All right. China and the United States are not actually fighting an AI war. It's all theater. They're actually working together to promote AI. These sanctions are happening, but eventually the US and China will come to a grand bargain and they will become much more economically integrated. And Iran, China doesn't really care about Iran. Okay? China cares first and foremost about the relationship with the United States. And one piece of evidence for that is that when Foreign Minister Arachi went to...
This is a huge claim that he's making here, this idea that America and China are working together on AI. I don't know about this one. This is a very, very strange, a very peculiar thing to say, I must admit. I wonder how he's going to back this up. I know that they are locked in an embrace with one another, and they use each other's technology and understanding. But like, I wouldn't say it's because they just have such a healthy relationship. I would just say they come into contact with one another because they trade with one another on the world market, and they deal with each other through diplomacy. But like, you know, it's a very interesting claim to think that America and China are working together when it comes to AI. I know they're working very hard against one another in the information space to dominate and ensure they have separated information spaces so America can't use its soft power to influence China too much, and vice versa. I guess that's what happened with the whole TikTok affair. China, through TikTok, was getting way too much control over the American consciousness, the American psyche, because everybody's strapped to TikTok all day long and in a constant doom scroll. I don't know if they're working together. Interesting theory. I wonder how he backs this one up. China doesn't care about Iran, just 20% of their oil supply. They don't care. Well, I think, you know, in the context of who would you pride more, America or Iran, in that context, then like they'd pick America every day of the week, I reckon. They're both working alongside each other, not together. Yeah, that's a much better description of it, yes. Who owns TikTok now? Who knows? Interesting. Yeah, well, like, who owns TikTok America? Well, ByteDance still has a big share in it because they actually need ByteDance to still be in control because they don't know how to use it. But like, it's basically what, Larry Ellison, right? An American media mogul and tech bro extraordinaire. His people. Jiang sounding like an FBI shill. LOL. Nvidia is incredibly valuable. It's on par with China's technology because they have a good partnership. Sounds like a pitch. Yeah. Wookie, I'm sure both of their AIs are saying pretend to be friends with the other country to get closer to their AI. Either one country wins or Skynet does. That's fucking hilarious. They've asked for advice of their separate AI, their separate LLMs. Just pretend to be friends with them. Oh, good. Bibi had a part of his 60-minute interview cut out, leaked. He spoke about how they need both farms to combat woke lefties disparaging Izzy. Damn. What do you mean by both farms? That's crazy. Goddamn woke lefties. A lot of this talk of lefties are only left because they're co-opted by social media campaigns. Isn't coming from nowhere. Interesting.
To Moscow, Putin met with him for 40.
Bot farms. Got it. Sorry. Bot farms. They need bot farms to combat woke lefties. Hey, lining up with Isn't Rail.
For 90 minutes. And Putin expressed his sympathy and support to the Iranian people. When Reggie came to Beijing, he only met with his counterpart, the foreign minister, Wang Yi. Okay? All right. Another important thing is that Scott Bessent is the one who is leading the US team in China. Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary. This goes against protocol because it's usually the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the National Security Advisor, who also happens to be Marco Rubio. This team is the one that sets the agenda for the US-China visit. Because it's Scott Bessent, we can probably guess that this is probably going to be an economic negotiation. And the focus is on finance. Basically, what America wants is for China to open up its financial sector for companies like BlackRock and Blackstone to come in to sell.
I wonder what that was actually about, that other meeting. Does anyone know? Because I've heard other people talk about it and saying, oh, it's actually, that's where the real action is happening. Some meeting that Scott Bessent has had in China. South Korea. Supposedly, there has been a meeting between Scott Bessent and Chinese officials in South Korea, which is taking place separate to Trump's visit to China. I have heard the claim that the real deals are being done in this forum. Can you briefly explain Scott's meeting in South Korea with Chinese officials, what it was about, and why this meeting has been separate to Trump's visit to China? The meeting you're referring to involves Scott Bessent and He Feng in Seoul, ahead of their formal summit between Trump and Xi in Beijing. In simple terms, Seoul meeting appears to have been a working level or pre-negotiation session, focused mainly on tariffs and trade tensions, semiconductors and technology, rare earths and critical minerals, supply chains, possibly Chinese purchase of US goods, broader economic coordination. Interesting. So the claim that the real negotiations happened behind the scenes is not entirely wrong. In practice, leaders' summits often formalize or announce understandings that have already been shaped by Treasury officials, trade negotiators, diplomats, and party officials beforehand. Interesting. Marco usurped the power of the idea or something. This guy is like those psychic dudes. Is there an economic reason in the room with us today? That's pretty funny.
Financial instruments to Chinese people, okay? That's what America wants. And we'll talk about more about this as we go along.
I have arrived. Matt Bond in the house. How you going? Catching a live stream. Hope you're well.
Okay, so in the geopolitical landscape, it seems as though America is trying to contain China. So this is Tehran, and this is what China's trying to do. China's trying to build a high-speed rail network from Beijing all the way across Central Asia and into Europe. Okay, this is a land route that Beijing wants to take in order to maintain trade with Europe. As you can tell from this map, Tehran is the pivot or the hub of this trade network. Okay, without Tehran, Beijing could not access Europe. And then Moscow also sees Tehran as very important as well for its north-south trade axis. Without Tehran, Beijing is completely reliant on Russia. Beijing does not want to become reliant on Russia. Beijing sees itself as the third axis of power in the world. All right, you have the United States, you have Russia, and then you have China. From a geopolitical perspective, China doesn't want to become partners with either the United States or Russia. It wants to become independent. It wants to create its own sphere of influence. Okay, and that's why Iran is very, very important. So a lot of geopolitical analysts believe that Beijing is forced to support Iran in this war. And what I want to show you is that's not actually the case. All right? China may want to become independent of the United States and Russia, but it cannot actually. All right. Now, there's a rumor a couple of days ago that one deal that Trump and Xi will sign in Beijing is Xi Jinping will commit $1 trillion investment into America, primarily factories that manufacture EV cars.
That was a long explanation of very basic nationalism. Yeah, I don't know where he was going with that one. He was kind of like, oh, they want to build a high-speed rail network and they need to run for it. But then, because they don't want to rely on Russia. But like, they don't really care about Iran. It's like, well, which one is it then, man? Come on. Do they care about Iran for their grander ambitions of getting a high-speed rail link into Europe or not? Which one is it? You said they were pivotal. They don't want to rely on Russia.
This is a huge deal, okay? And Laura Ingraham, who works at Fox News, she thinks it's a bad thing. She thinks that this is about China coming in and trying to buy out the United States. As I'll show you later, this is retarded. Okay, I think this deal will happen, but this is a deal that shows that China is ultimately dependent on America as opposed to China wants to take over America. Okay? All right, so how can we understand the Trump visit? Well, again, in this class, what I want to show you is that historical analogies is a really powerful way to understand the present. So the Trump visit today is analogous to Nixon's visit in 1972. Okay?
Yeah, he's phrasing it like that means that they don't need trade or any cooperation. I'm not sure what his point was. Maybe he'll come back to it later. I don't know. It's a big setup. Big baddies. Hey.
So you don't know this, but before 1972, America was hostile towards China, primarily because of Taiwan,
Really?
where during the Chinese Civil War, the Americans were very supportive of Chiang Kai-shek and the KMT. They lost, they went to Taiwan. And when that happened...
Some of the stuff Trump's posted in the last 24 hours. He's fucking nuts, isn't he? President Trump ages in reverse. What the fuck? Space Force? Hey, the space one's real, you know. If you want to know what we're looking at here, the weird nuke button AI thing. Yeah, what the fuck is that? If you're wondering what we're looking at here, we're on Discord, and we've got a group there. This is where we share our propaganda. So I'll put it in the chat for you if you're watching this and you haven't come across our Discord invitation before. Here it is. All right, back to it.
America said that, first of all, we will only recognize Taiwan as the official government of China. Second of all, we will refuse to do any business with the PRC. And third of all, we will help Taiwan eventually try to take over China. 1972, when Nixon visited, this marked a radical departure from 20 years of American foreign policy. Okay? And the question then is, why would he do that? And the answer is, in 1971, the Nixon shock. So if you talk to historians, they'll give you lots and lots of different reasons as to why Nixon visited China. The main reason, from their perspective, is that Henry Kissinger, who was National Security Advisor to Richard Nixon, he was trying to triangulate between China and the Soviet Union, right? He was trying to get China on the side of the United States in order to defeat the Soviet Union. That's not true. That is something that historians made up. The real reason is that in 1971, Nixon removed the US dollar from the gold standard. And now the US dollar is worth nothing. Before you could take the US dollar and change it for gold, now it's worth nothing. If it's worth nothing, what to do now is create a demand for it. You basically have to create a Ponzi scheme. And so Nixon did two things to resolve this issue and create the US dollar Ponzi scheme. The first thing he did was create something called a petrodollar. Okay? The petrodollar is where Saudi Arabia and other Middle East countries like Qatar, UAE, they only sell their oil in US dollars. So now, before...
Is everyone agreeing with this so far? Like, this isn't very controversial, what he's talking about here. I don't think anyone actually would disparage this one. I wonder if Saint Chi, you got any comments there? I'm here for the aggressive whiteboard ASMR. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I see a lot of the same patterns I noticed debunking fake pyramid theories and the like. Make a claim or connect 2 points with no evidence, then move on quickly. Nixon is a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, he's pointing at Nixon. All right. Apart from the bad placement on the whiteboard here, on the digital blackboard, whatever the fuck it's called, Nixon is a Ponzi scheme. All right, so I'm not hearing a harsh criticism of his analysis going in here. Nixon shock, so decoupling, removing gold standard, but it needs people to continue relying on the US dollar somehow. Even though people are already fully committed to the US dollar at this point. Like, everyone's using the US dollar. Everyone's trading in US dollars. Everyone's buying fucking bonds, holding reserves in US dollars. And then they pull the plug on the gold standard. And like, he needs some type of petrodollar system to keep everyone on the US dollar. Like, what do they think is going to happen? Like, a day afterwards, everyone's just going to start trading in other currencies? No, the US is set up as a global currency at that point. People can't just turn around the next day and just trade in local currencies. They would have used the US dollar for a long time anyway, because people were used to using it. The systems, everything was set up around the US dollar. So it wasn't just going to fall apart overnight. But yes, having something like the petrodollar system, encouraging people to remain incentivized to use US dollars. I think this is fairly accurate, all of this, to be honest. I read that property investors now have 30% less borrowing power. Pour one out, everyone, for the sad investors. Is this because of the capital gains stuff that you're talking about? Debate bro tactics tire you out before getting to the point. LOL. Sounds mean. Like, I'm an Italian American from Boston and worked for a bank. I can't even comment. This is good entertainment. Okay, fair enough. So I'm assuming if you're not commenting, then you're in agreement then.
Or the value of the US dollar was tied to gold, the gold standard.
Yeah, you say Boston, we know you're in Seattle. Yeah, show us your bin, bro.
Now the value of the US dollars is tied to oil. Okay, if you want to buy oil and everyone wants to buy oil, you need US dollars. And there's something called a petrodollar. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, which is relevant to us, is China. Okay, opening. The strategy is to turn China into a manufacturing base for the global economy, right? So the Middle East sells oil to the world, but China now will sell manufactured goods to the world, and China will also do so using US dollars. And these two things together create the current global economy.
And so, like, this is interesting. This is an interesting perspective that when they agreed to do business with China and open up China to the world economy, China was going to become this manufacturing powerhouse for world capitalism. But like the insinuation was always that as Nixon was figuring this out and America was top dog, that China was going to become the manufacturing hub for the world, largely. And it was implicit that their trade would all be done in US dollars. And so, like, you know, if you're going to have like the world's energy being secured in US dollars and the world's manufacturing being secured in US dollars, that's a pretty fair take on that one, I guess. Deracinated from a simple life of personal austerity and captive to this cosmopolitan existence, Soros funded. Wow. You know, I wish I knew what goes inside your head. Honestly. From a simple life of personal austerity and captive to this cosmopolitan existence.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you.
No, well, like, can you explain it in like a less coded way? This is deracinated from a simple life of personal austerity and captive to this cosmopolitan existence. Soros funded. Yeah, give me some more to work with here, please.
Why America did this now is I'm going to explain to you why America did this, okay? This is something called the Shanghai Communique. This is published in 1972. And this basically spells out the basic premise, framework for all future US-China cooperation and dialogue. And the Shanghai framework basically resolves the Taiwan question. And with regard to the Taiwan question, America practices something called strategic ambiguity, meaning the United States will not be clear about the issue of Taiwan with regard to China. So
I think this is someone already mentioned this, right? Strategic ambiguity, as they call it. Like living off the land locally, the demand for these devices that are the viral essence of modern man. That are the vital essence of modern man. Living off the land locally, the demand for these devices that are vital, the vital essence of modern man. Like, no, yes, I agree. I concur. The US economy outgrew the supply of gold. You can't back every dollar by bricks of gold. It's the full faith and credit of the US government. Gold standard economics is like some 1800s shit. Sorry. Born to shit, forced to wipe, and viral. Okay. Yeah, like, as in, it makes logical sense in an ever-expanding economy that you need to move off a gold-backed standard at some point to a fiat currency. Yeah, okay, fine, it makes sense. But, like, you're not saying that he's incorrect in what he's talking about, though. And viral. Our phones, for one? Yes. So, like, we don't have personal austerity is what you're talking about now. We have like this kind of cosmopolitan existence that's pushed onto us by like a billionaire class. And so what are we really attached to, right? You try living modern life without wiping mystery. I'll try. Actually, no, I'm not going to promise that. I can't do that. I can't promise you this. I'm sorry.
What the United States has been saying for a long time is we do not support Taiwan independence. Okay, that's just strategic ambiguity. China would prefer the United States to say we oppose Taiwan independence, in which case the United States is obligated now to prevent Taiwan from becoming independent. Okay, that's what China would prefer.
And austerity. as we perceive it, oppose comfort, maybe more stray.
But the United States practices strategic ambiguity, saying, we do not support. I would not be surprised if, over the next few months, Trump rapidly changes this attitude and declares that the United States is opposed to Taiwan independence. In fact, the United States supports the unification of China and Taiwan. Okay? This would be a radical sea shift.
Hasn't this already started to happen? Like, hasn't Trump turned around afterwards? Didn't he get on like Air Force One when he was leaving? It was just like, Taiwan needs to get the fuck over it. They need to calm down on the whole independence thing. But like, he hasn't made a call on whether or not he's going to sell that. Why is it $14 billion of weapons anyway to Taiwan? I thought last year when we heard about this deal, it was $10 billion that they were going to sell, which pissed off China to no end at that time. And now it's $14 billion. Where'd the extra $4 billion come from? It's fucking, what's $4 billion between friends, eh? Am I right? But yeah, hasn't Trump already started doing this? Yeah, not really much of a prediction. No, that's like the opposite of what I'm saying. Like, this is pretty fucking accurate, actually. This one is bang on. Because I didn't see that coming. Like, for years. Like, how many decades have we lived with, like, ooh, China's scary. They're going to take over Taiwan. It's going to start World War III. Like, everyone's been terrified about the whole Taiwan situation. If China ever takes over, it's going to be World War III. And Trump's, like, basically come out after meeting Xi this time. It's just like, yeah, well, they need to get over this whole independence thing. It's childish. Just get the fuck over it. Like, all of a sudden now, Taiwan independence isn't worth the world dying for in a World War scenario? What the hell? When did Yang drop this video? Like 3 days ago. Or like on the 14th, like during the meeting, I guess. And like maybe it hadn't even happened yet, the meeting, because I think we watched it Thursday our time. So it was probably even Wednesday, maybe, for them, potentially, when he first got there. So, yeah. Ravi, he got back to Air Force One. Someone explained to Trump what she said, like we do with you and your pop culture references, and he went back to sitting on China. Somebody explain what he said, like we do with pop culture references. It can't be across everything. I mean, if he predicted it, then Trump's saying it, then yeah, props. Yeah, props. Like the other stuff that he was trying to predict before, like, oh, that didn't age well. But this one, fair enough. Jiang out the back of the studio doing shoeies with cash. Yeah, that's how he knows, right? You had better work, biatch, is all I'm saying. Yeah, fair enough. I hear you loud and clear. Otherwise, he's just good at listening. Yes, of course. Yes.
From previous administrations. And I'll explain why later on why Trump would do this, and also why it's actually very strategic and smart for the United States to want to support Taiwan and China reunification. Okay? All right. So let me explain now what the China-U.S. relationship really is, using the theories that we've learned.
What are you going to ship gold bars every time you run a current account deficit? Bretton Woods was the conference that pegged the US to gold. It doesn't allow for expansion of economy. Like, what if a country wants to increase its budget? Do you need to acquire gold bars first? Yeah, but like that was the system though. Like the US was tied to gold and everyone was pegged to the US dollar. And so your currency was pegged to the US dollar in the sense that like it stabilized your currency. And so like you could print your own money if you really wanted to. I didn't think there was any limitations on you printing your own money and needing gold bars for it first. It was America that promised that if you gave it back its dollars, then it would give you the equivalent or whatever that was in gold. I don't know if people were exactly curtailed in like dealing in their own currency, but it was stable. Currencies were kind of pegged to the dollar, and everything revolved around it. I'll crochet gold bars for us all, and we can be wealthy in cushions. Wow, thank you. That would be lovely. Lovely. That's kind of the point of the old system. Yes, you shouldn't have more currency than you have resources to tie it to. That way your money will keep you warm at night. Or assets of any kind. Not the gold bars, but the usury system as a whole. Wait, did I miss something else that you said? Yes. And you should get those bars from Australia. LOL. What? You heard me. Unless you're saying what to somebody else.
In this class, okay? This is something that you will never learn, that you will not learn anywhere else. And this is speculation on my part. Please take it with a grain of salt. Please question me. Please debate me, okay? But this is my theory of how the US and China work together. And once you understand this theory, you can then go on to make certain predictions about how the United States and China will behave moving forward. And based on whether these predictions are correct or not, you can then figure out if this theory is correct or not, okay? All right, so the first thing to understand, and something I've been teaching a lot in this class, is that reality is a hallucination. It is something that we collectively imagine together. And again, the analogy, the metaphor I use is Plato's allegory of the cave, where you imagine about 1 million people chained together, and they're all looking at a wall, okay? This wall is empty. Behind the wall, behind the people, is this great fire.
Yeah, assets are imagination. This cat, who apparently had loads of money, died in waiting rooms for not having present-day healthcare insurance. Let's have a look here. Imdo Clive. Let's see if Imdo Clive is one of the first people to ever comment from Kick that isn't selling something. We're about to find out. We're about to find out. Win, dab, and a clap. Surety of no mistaking.
Where the elite, okay, we don't know who they are, okay, but they project shadows onto the wall. And then the people who are chained don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They only see what's in front of them, which is the wall. They see these shadows, and they start to create a reality around these shadows. They think these shadows are real, and they think, and they create mythology, religion, an entire framework around these shadows. Okay, this is what we call reality. All right, so the main message here is that true wealth is our attention.
Allegory? Yeah, I know, we're back here again. This got so popular when, like a year or so ago, and everyone was talking about it. What is it, like Plato's cave, something, something? My lordy, yes, we are here.
Okay? Our consciousness is what's true wealth. In fact, our consciousness is what's real. Everything else is just an illusion. Everything else is a shadow. Your body is a shadow. Okay? The person in front of you is a shadow. This blackboard is a shadow. What's real is the thing inside your head. Your consciousness is what's real. Now, what power is the capacity to direct and control this attention. Okay? How I exert power over you is by making you think the way I want you to think.
Well, hence why media is so goddamn important in the current industrial society, right? We're so disconnected from the economy, and we don't have any control over anything. And so we need to be told what to think and what to think about. The attention economy. So in other words, Europe needs to properly ally with the Middle East /Israel and become a second global power against the Chinese and Chinid states of America. Could you imagine if these two economies got together? There would be no way to withstand them. All the middle powers on earth would not be able to withstand the Chinid states of America. That's fucking hilarious. Shadow people outside reality. This is way better than economics.
By making you see what I want you to see. Okay? So I can make you see these shadows and make you think it's real, and that's what true power is. And this idea, once you understand it, explains the reality that we live in. Okay? So I'm gonna take this idea and apply it to reality and show you how it works. So at the very base of reality is the empire. Okay? It is the American empire that's able to force you to sit down and look at the wall. then the people...
Any offense to that one, Saint Xi? He's used America in the context of empire. Like I don't even know if he's being pejorative about it. Like maybe he's just being neutral. It's not a slur to say American empire. Any concerns there?
Manipulating the fire, casting shadows, are the game masters. And these are the financial elite, okay? Including the Bank of International Settlements, the Federal Reserve.
I signed up for a stitching class. We'll be copying a painting or something. It's going to be me and the retirees. This guy's great. Oh, okay. The problem with the cave allegory / modern society analogy is the assumption that an individual can't leave society the way that captives couldn't leave the cave. Okay. I can walk out of society right now and go live by myself, and my perception probably won't change. It'll be trapped in time, though, if you're not constantly being fed by the manufacturing consent machine, as we like to call it. But like, could you really go and live by yourself? Eh? Could you walk out of society right now and live by yourself? I reckon there'd be few people that could do that. And like, if everybody, like if 27 million people in Australia right now, for example, decided to go exit society and go live off the land, would they be supported? Probably not. A moment in time suspends. Anyway, the practicality of it aside. Yeah, imagine 8 billion people doing that. No, we need industrial society now to support a population of this nature. No, for the felt tip marker, right? You and Ravy are going to have to start up some type of organization to save pens, whiteboard markers from Professor Zhang over here. I might die young of a snake bite. Don't make snake bite jokes. It makes everybody else who's not Australian nervous. Like we take our life into our own hands every day by living here. Never lend Jiang your felt tips. They're gonna all be pushed in and shit.
Wall Street, City of London, basically private capital.
I feel strongly about
they together create the conditions for this game. They're able to direct our attention. Okay, and the mechanism they do this with is, of course, with capital. Okay, or US dollars. And then the game to create something called the global economy, of course, right? The global economy. But in order for this game to work, the game masters have to disguise the fact that they're really in charge. So they create institutions that pretend to be objective, international, and impartial and fair, but are in fact controlled by the game masters. These are include, of course, the UN, the WTO, the EU, the World Bank, okay? Lots and lots of these organizations. And then, in order to justify and legitimize this system, in order to make you think these shadows are real, media, education, and culture brainwash you, indoctrinate you into believing this system is real, when it's all just a hallucination, okay? And then from this, of course, you have the legal system to enforce the system, as well as customs and habits, values, and norms. Okay, so this is an enforcement mechanism.
If 4AS is watching this right now, or anyone in the Marxian persuasion, this is what the base and the superstructure right here. Much simpler just saying base, the economic mode, not the empire, but the economic mode at the bottom there, and the entire superstructure, the ideological structure that sits on top of the base to keep it going. But like, breaking it up into layers like this is nice. But like, this ain't new. Yeah, people love drinking bad water on that show. Wait, what? If anything, watching 10 seasons of Alone has me knowing it is how to avoid snake bites. Walk really loudly so they know you're coming. And don't give yourself giardia. Yeah, people love drinking bad water on that show. So many.
To force you to believe that the system is real. Okay? media, education, culture brainwashes you to believe the system is real, and then you yourself want to enforce the system on others through customs and norms, okay? Now, this is a very fragile system because
we didn't need hallucinations before the UN. The truth was stranger.
it's all just a hallucination. So there are enforcement mechanisms, okay, that make sure this system is stable. And these enforcement mechanisms are crime, intelligence, spies, basically, spy networks, and science. Okay? And these three mechanisms are controlled by the true powers of this world. And they include transnational capital, basically private capital, secret societies, and elite families. And what binds them together, they're basically software.
Are you saying what the fuck to? Like what he just said there? Like it's linked together by crime, intelligence, and and science? That was an interesting take, wasn't it? And they're all controlled by free capital. Crime, intelligence, and science hold the whole damn thing together. Well, let's see where we're going with this. I'm not liking this whole cave and hallucination analysis, but he must be going so. We haven't talked about Trump v. China in a long time here.
Operating system is what we call the occult. Okay? And we'll study more about the occult later on. All right. Okay, so this is how the world is designed. Again, this is all hallucination. One thing that you don't appreciate about the system is that from this hallucination, I can actually project myself onto another force and create another hallucination. Okay? And that's what Richard Nixon did. From this system, in order to maintain the empire, in order to maintain the supremacy of the US dollar, okay, he created two new hallucinations. And they are the GCC and China. Okay? China. GCC and China. Right? So what underpinned this system before was gold. The fact that US dollar could always be exchanged for gold. Once that's gone, then you need to create two new hallucinations in order to disguise the hallucination, okay? So what happened was that over the next few decades, this system will transport itself and impose itself on the GCC and China. Okay? This system here. It will impose itself into the GCC as well as China. In other words, and this is really important for you guys to understand, China is a hallucination of a hallucination. It's not real. Okay, I'll explain more about this later on, okay? All right, so once this hallucination is imposed onto the GCC and China, this creates demand for the US dollar, okay? And this creates certain stability for the US dollar. And it made China very, very wealthy, okay?
The Illuminixon.
But
wait, China isn't
it's
real?
all just an illusion. It's all just a mirage.
I knew it. Oh my God. Come on. Is China not real? Like Australia isn't real either? Yeah, I can't believe people think that Australia is a fictional place. Come on.
There's some problems with the system. First of all, China doesn't have any creativity, okay? Why? Because if you're a hallucination, there's nothing for you to base yourself on. Okay, you're a shadow of a shadow. That's the first problem. Second problem is wealth extraction. Okay? The idea here is that whatever wealth China creates has to return to the source. Because the people inside China appreciate that the renminbi, its entire value is based on the US dollar. So
China is known for lack of creativity. Okay, so like, is what he's saying here, like, stop me if you think something else here, but like what he's basically saying is that the American empire, and in its interests of preserving its economic hegemony after the Nixon shock, so decoupling gold from the US dollar and creating a fiat currency, in order to help continue economic power, created China in its modern sense, but on its terms. And so created this idea of the modern China, which was the manufacturing hub, and opened it to the world so it could manufacture, but like it did it all because it knew that China was going to trade in US dollars. And so it created the hallucination that China is the world's manufacturing powerhouse, let's just say, for now. And it created this illusion that this hallucination or this perception of China as the world's manufacturing powerhouse, but only because it knew and could control China through the US dollar. And so China, while it may physically be very creative and like actually create a lot of value as a manufacturing hub and a technological hub, it can only do so because it's based on something else. It was a creation of the US empire via extension, via proxy. And so as a creation of the US empire by proxy and reliance on the US dollar to make it survive or to keep it going, then it's still beholden to the original hallucination being the US state. I think that is pretty much a fair summary of what he's talking about here. And like, you know, it's not wrong in the sense that China is completely reliant on the world economy to survive. It has been created as a manufacturing hub. It doesn't have strong enough, so they say, internal consumer demand in order to satiate or absorb all of the stuff that it produces. And so in order to continue producing at the same capacity, it relies on stabilization of the world economy by the US empire, the original hallucination. And so without a world stabilized by the US hegemon and granted access to its currency, it doesn't have the basis that it requires in order to be the amazing economy that it is. It's built purely on the back of the American empire and like the context that it has provided. Now, I think the $1 trillion question is are China preparing to decouple from the US? And could they decouple from the US so they don't actually have to rely on the setting, the background setting being the American empire for them to actually succeed? I think that is the $1 trillion question here, if that's where we're going with this one. Dilemmas, it's not China. It's a giant psyop from Taiwan to get funding and pretend to be a little dog in the fight. Oh my God. They've never invented anything ever. All the Chinese people know, respect and do. Jiang has actually broken the curse by saying the truth out loud. China is not real. Made in China labels fading away everywhere, like Back to the Future. Temu self-deletes. This is way better than his interview with the Norwegian guy. I don't know, the one that we watched last time, you mean? Yeah, okay. The technology almost dictates a certain paradigm. Yes. And like, this is what I'm saying, like, is it a position that they're working towards with this socialism with Chinese characteristics to decouple themselves from the paradigm? Can they? If it's completely dictated? Fresh air, stuck in hospital sucks. I snuck out for a bit. Oh, I'm glad. Actually, I saw a picture on Friday when I was having technical issues of you being like, oh man, I wanted you to keep me entertained today. I hope you're well and everything's going well, whatever you're up to at the moment, medically speaking. Hope it is successful, whatever's going on.
You rather have renminbi or US dollar? Of course, China appreciate that the renminbi, its entire value is based on the US dollar. So would you rather have renminbi or US dollar? Of course you want US dollar. Okay? And the third problem is the fragility of the system. Okay? Meaning that if this system, the hallucination, is unstable, then China is even more unstable because it's a hallucination of a hallucination. Okay, do you understand? Okay, so once we understand this, then we begin to reassess what happened these past 10 years. Why the United States...
Are we ready to keep going? No? Are we all ready? More deracination. The Jewish abstraction brought us nukes. Inconceivable.
China fight this trade war. The reason why is that China believed that it could be independent of this hallucination. In fact, it could create its own hallucination. And the United States says, no, 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 guys. No, no, no. You're going to be dependent on us. So then they started to fight this trade war. Once this trade war happened, what happened? A lot of money and people started to flee China.
Fucking China is now inception. No direction home. Yes.
And move back to the United States. Okay? And now what China has recognized is, okay, first of all, we can actually leave this hallucination, because if this hallucination were to collapse, we collapse as well. So one thing we can do is actually to recouple, okay? To bind ourselves even greater to the system. Another saying this is that the global economy is under a lot of strain. There are two main beneficiaries of the global economy, the United States and China.
Good call. Activate the like button. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, hit the like button. If you are new here, subscribe for more. If you're on Twitch right now, follow. You know the fucking drill. I'm imagining all of Govan's messages like poetry slam. I'm clicking. Yeah, it's fucking cryptic as fuck, isn't it? It's hard for me to follow. I think I'm getting there though with some of them. Someone make an activate the like button t-shirt.
So both are heavily invested in maintaining the illusion, the hallucination that is the global economy. Okay? And to appreciate how fragile all this is, think of the UAE. Okay? The UAE. The UAE seemed as though it was a very prosperous place. Right? It had universities from America, like Georgetown, Cornell. It had people, the wealthiest people, flocking to Dubai. It seemed invincible. But the moment you attack the UAE, like Iran just lobs a missile at UAE, the illusion shatters. And now the UAE is gone. You understand? That's how precarious these hallucinations are. One hit at the right spot, the entire illusion is shattered. You can never bring it back. Okay? And so that's what China's afraid of now. So that's why China and the United States have to work together, because what's important is to maintain the nature of reality itself. The worst thing that can happen is if people wake up from this dream. Because if people wake up from this dream, everything collapses all at once. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Any questions so far?
UAE gone.
Are we clear about this? Okay. All right.
No,
so
now that
we have this theory, let's talk about this idea concretely. Okay?
In the sense that like the UAE pre-Iran war and the UAE now are like almost completely different entities, right? Like they were it was a stable place where the world's, I don't know, rich and famous would just go there just to muck around because they were invincible. No one would ever touch them. And now that world is gone, UAE is just another country in the Middle East that is susceptible to the instability of that region. There it goes. It's gone. Schmegli. How you go? I don't know if I said that right. Schmegli. I'm going to say hello back. Schmegli. How are you? Yo, yo. Welcome to the stream. I am going to do that because it actually has been a while, hasn't it? 4AS. I'm going to do this. Patreon. Yeah. Here is the link to Patreon. It's been a while since I plugged this. But yes, if you can go to Patreon and sign up and become a free member, please. I'm trying to develop a good email list of everyone because I went on leave recently, and when I came back, I don't think everyone was getting my notifications. I still think there are people that, like, you know, were watching the stream before that have just been cut out by the algorithm, chopped. So if you can go, please, no strings attached, to Patreon, sign up as a free member, so I can have you on an email list. I'll love you forever. It'll be amazing. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a goddamn favor. And one more time for Discord. If you're new here or you haven't had a chance yet, come across. And this is where we share our propaganda and, like, you know, do stuff like the stream chat over here and put amazing GIFs, Fine. I'll join my first Patreon. Like, again, no strings. Just, it's for an email list for me, to be honest. And then, like, yeah, we're not suffering the algorithm, to be honest. LOL, I get what he means, but instead of saying the whole place is a shadow in his analogy, it'd be more accurate to say the regime's running them like the shadows. Still not 100% accurate. Yeah, fair enough. But like, it's interesting as like the hallucination theory. Like the UAE was considered to be this place of stability in the Gulf, right, in the region. And like that's just gone now. Like once the first drone hit, like that's it. It's all over. And it was all based on America as well, saying that they would protect them. No one's going to touch us, right? We've got American bases. Not anymore.
All right. So the United States used to be the world's most powerful manufacturing country, okay? So before it was the UK, then you have the United States, okay? The United States is in the blue, right? And then China surpassed it. This is intentional, okay? The intention is to use manufacturing to extract the wealth of China and transfer it to America. Okay, so now China is the world's most powerful.
Or just propaganda, LOL. Well, like I would go further than that. Like the propaganda is the thing that distributes. It's the vehicle of distribution of the hallucination. The hallucination itself is this idea that the system itself has legitimacy. Like it exists in the first place. The idea like you go to work every day, or you have faith that when you use money in your bank account or cash in your hand, that somebody will, like if you're trying to buy food to eat, that if you hand this thing over, they'll give you food to eat. Like that whole thing is based on a perception of reality, a bunch of safe assumptions that like if you do this, then like something will happen in response to that. And so like you can crash all of that. And like that's all held together by all the institutions that he was listing before, including the media, which is part of the propaganda machine that reinforces that idea constantly. And yeah, this thing is incredibly fragile and it could fall down. But like it's not going to happen just because somebody will have some enlightening experience, shared enlightenment. I don't think it works like that. What role does Pepe play in all of this? This guy is awesome. We free ourselves from another captivity thereby. That's why it's saved for last. We free ourselves from another captivity thereby. That's why it's saved for last. I've always had a gripe with rich Aussies. They go to UAE and don't reinvest in the country that's allowed them the opportunity to make such wealth. Well, look at them now, eh? Look at them now. Should have kept that money here, right? Dilemmas. Does Mr. E know Pepe Sylvia? No. Making the joke that Jiang is FBI. UAE were British colonies. Yeah, fair enough. I hope the fact is always... What? Be a gremlin, loke, me. Every system will fall apart eventually. I don't know if I read that right. Yeah, I feel like Plato covered all of this in the allegory long ago. LOL. How is it applicable to us and China now specifically? He's still getting there. He is. I think he's still getting there. It's a long setup though, isn't it?
Manufacturing country, okay? And this is
lots of typos while I was walking. Okay.
That shows it better. Okay, where China is now number 1, United States has moved on number 2, Japan and Germany are pretty flat. This is intentional. The intention is to bind China to the global economy, to become dependent on the global economy, and therefore save the global economy when it's under strain. Okay, one major consequence of this...
like, even if he is, like, sorry, you can't expect Jiang to have an extensive study background in theory. The guy's a high school teacher. Like, even if he is a high school teacher, like, even if who cares if he's a high school teacher? In the sense that, like, it's not. I know you don't mean it like this when you say stuff like that, but like, it's kind of degrading. Like, why can't a high school teacher come up with like wild theories like this and like know enough stuff to like speak about, you know, global political situations and like, you know, macroeconomics and diplomacy, strategy, game theory, you know? If he is a high school teacher, does he have to have like a doctorate in something before he's allowed to speak about this stuff? Like, I'm sensitive, obviously, to this. Because, like, you know, like, who am I to speak about this? To speak about any of this type of stuff? People are going to be like, one day, you know, oh, you talk about this stuff. Or, like, you know, you have a Marxian understanding of things. And what university did you study at in order to have these opinions, good sir? And I'll be like, none. Go fuck yourself. That's why. So far, he's explained nationalism and the concept of propaganda. Yes, we get it. Now make it apply, please. Look, it's an hour long. So, like, we're halfway through. So I'm sure he's going to get there soon. Who do you think this is? Some kind of professor? Also, I'm joking. I dropped out of uni. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I find the left is rather adversarial to this guy. And they're just like, he's not even a real professor. Like, and you're just like, okay. And, like, are we that prejudiced against people that, like, aren't real professors? That, like, he's not allowed to have fucking opinions? Like, come on. Like Conrad Benjamin. Oh, yeah, he's a school teacher, isn't he? What did he say? He did year 10 economics. Hey? Conrad Mikowski. Okay. I was referencing Spandog's comment that he's still getting there. Right. Yeah, to be fair, he is talking to kids, LOL. I'm trying to be patient.
Of China's rise is the trade deficit between America and China. Okay? Unfortunately, this trade deficit is a natural consequence of China's manufacturing ascent. Okay? Why? Because the purpose is to force China to buy more US dollars. Okay? In order to support the Ponzi scheme. So this is a system that benefits the Americans. When Trump came to power in 2016, he said, no, it shows...
The left would accept it better if he was a handsome white man. He can't pass like a son. That's hilarious.
US dollars. Okay? In order to support the Ponzi scheme. So this is a system that benefits the Americans. When Trump came into power in 2016, he said, no, it shows that China is taking advantage of us. And Trump doesn't really appreciate that. No, it was designed this way. You need to create demand for US dollars. If China is buying a lot of US dollars, that's a good thing, right? China's trading real assets, the energy of its people, for fake assets, which is just US dollars, okay? So it's a great deal for America, but Trump said, no, this is a bad deal, and this was what led to the trade war. Okay, so what led to the trade war is the WTO. So in 1999, China negotiated to join the WTO, the World Trade Organization. And this is what's going to make China rich and the largest manufacturing power in the world. But in order to join WTO, China had to agree to a lot of conditions. The two most important conditions was protect IP, okay? You have to protect other nations' intellectual property, and you have to enforce it. And the other thing was open the financial sector. The goal is USD renminbi convertibility. Okay? So these are the two things America wanted from China. First of all, to ensure that all US IP would be protected in China rigorously. Second thing is to allow any Chinese to convert their money into US dollars. As you can appreciate, these two demands are actually bad for China. Okay? So China was not very stringent about protecting IP. This is what led to the rise of Huawei. Basically, Huawei can take Apple IP and make these great computers. So in the year 2016, when Trump first came to power, Huawei computers were actually better than Apple computers because Huawei was constantly innovating and they were trying to make their computers as cheap as possible, whereas Apple was essentially a monopoly, okay? And this led to the United States imposing trade sanctions on Huawei because it was too competitive against Apple. The second problem is even worse because if you think about it, if you just open up your financial sector, all the money in China runs off the United States because Chinese appreciate that we are a hallucination of a hallucination. US dollars is more valuable. The renminbi is based on US dollars, so wouldn't it make more sense to just convert all your renminbi into US dollars? But then this would, of course, cause the collapse of the Chinese economy, right? So the Chinese government would refuse to open the financial sector, and that's what started the trade war in 2016. Oh, sorry, not 2016, in 2018, okay? 2018 is when the war actually started, up to today. So for the last 8 years, this war's been going on because America's trying to protect its IP and because America wants to open up its financial sector.
You guys like to hate watch stuff? I have a recommendation. Go on. How much? Actually, here's a question. A little fucking, focus group test. And think about this, because I bet you people don't think about this regularly. But like, how much, as a percentage of the stuff that you watch online, is hate watching? Like, what percentage? I would like to know. What the heck is that? Intrigue de Pepe JPEG? Intrigued Pepe JPEG? That's something to hate watch, is it? I wonder how much time people spend hate watching stuff.
The reason
maybe 5% of your total watch is like dedicated. Oh, I just got to see what this prick says. I hate him. I love to hate. Or hate to love, ? I bet you do a lot of hate watching, Dilemmas. You punish yourself with like Abby Chatfield and stuff like that.
Why Trump has come to China, the reason why he's brought so many executives is because China has essentially agreed to open up its financial sector, okay? I'll discuss this later on. But you have to appreciate how this war started and why it's going to end. All right. Now, the thing about this war is that for the past 8 years, China and the United States have been attacking.
Yeah, hence the Party Line podcast and Serious Danger. But it's more to give people I used to like the benefit of the doubt. Right, okay. But even I can't, Abby. I also wonder what percentage of content is made specifically to garner a hateful and shrouded fraudist audience. Yes. Yeah, people deliberately being like deliberately agitating with their content. Very little. I enjoy connecting and debating / talking with you. Oh, stop it. But like, you don't think that you watch like hate watch at all? It's good for the soul, even if I'm a shithead at times. It is good for the soul, actually. I agree with that. I'll take that. Maybe 3%, but only if it makes me laugh. Oh, wow. So it's relatively low with some of these people then. Some of you. Interesting. Maybe 3%. Same, Ravi. Chris Hedges, apart from Israel / Palestine. I want to hear Jiang do a breakdown of AUKUS and how it is somehow the worst deal in history for us, but the best deal for the US.
Each other. There are two main mechanisms in which China attacked the United States. The first mechanism is by restricting the supply of rare earth minerals to the United States. Because as you can see from this chart, China actually produces most of the rare earth minerals. Now you may not know this, but actually rare earths aren't that rare. The problem is in the extraction. It is very expensive. It is very environmentally costly. China is willing to pay these costs. The rest of the world isn't. That's why China has essentially a monopoly over lithium, cobalt, graphite, and other rare earths that the EV industry, the solar industry.
I usually watch other people. I like hate watch people. Hate watching solo isn't fun. Yeah, fair enough. Like Far Right Fridays. Far Right Fridays. Oh my God. I had some good stuff lined up for Far Right Fridays as well. I had another fucking interview from Banana Boy and stuff like ready to go. And like, oh, so gutted for when Far Right Friday went down last week. Yeah, I don't watch things that are upsetting. I watch things that I want to be informed on or like through streamers, but prefer a laugh. Fair enough. I thought it would be higher. I just thought people would have like a high threshold for stuff that is just fucking annoying. Potassium intensifies. You need it needs a mustache. It's just not the same.
The semiconductor industry are heavily dependent on. Okay? That's the first attack vector. Second attack vector is China appreciates that China's value to the global economy is that it purchases a lot of US dollars. So then China started to buy more gold. Okay? So you can see how the US treasuries went down, but then gold went way up. Okay? And so this is the way that China is trying to exert pressure on the United States. The problem is that China is much more vulnerable to attack than the United States. Okay? The United
That's
States
a
is
weird reading of that situation. Like China buys less US treasuries and then ramps up like its like gold hoarding, let's call it. Because that's really what it fucking is. But like, yeah, gold hoarding and like basically lights a fire underneath world gold prices as they try and extract all the gold they can out of the entire world system. I don't know if that's the best way to read it as what he said there. Like, isn't that just showing that they are trying to diversify their economy in the event that America does try to pull the plug on China somehow, or like use economic warfare or continue or intensify its economic warfare on China, and they have some basis, some asset, some material basis for their economy so they can do business with other people. It seems like if they're going to build their own gold supplies, they're going to do what America did, like in the lead up to and following the Second World War. They based their economy in something tangible, and everyone wanted to peg themselves to the US dollar and were happy to go along with the Bretton Woods system. If China is going to provide an alternative currency at one point, if the American economy struggles or fails, China can easily provide that certainty or that confidence if it's sapped up all of the world's gold. And it's like, we can back our currency with gold if you want. So that's Brother Jane. I got to go. I'll be back if you're still on when I get back. Okay. Good luck doing what you're doing. Thanks for hanging. Anyway, the recommendation is the Nizam Black Show. His second most recent video, Tommy Robinson, is the title. Or stay in your Islamocentric, Jew-hating silo. Interesting. What a savage assessment there. Nissan Black Show. Tommy Robinson. I wonder if we're going to have to look at something like that. Tommy Robinson's very important at the moment with all of the protests. Isn't he? Robinson. Alright, I guess the only hate content would be H3, but it's like watching a slow motion car crash. It's more confusion and audacity than anything. You're sending me spiraling. See? H3 suing iDubbbz? Really? But hasn't this been going back and forth for a long time? Oh, 90 Day Finance, though it's not hate watch. More just trash TV. Okay.
It's a hallucination, but China is a hallucination of a hallucination. The first thing to appreciate is that
I do it with real estate YouTubers. That's fucking hilarious.
China's...
Oh, right. Wait, what? 90 Day Fiancé? No, not hate watch, just more trash. 90 Day Fiancé. It's about international marriage. Got it, right.
Energy dependence is huge. Appreciate is that China's energy dependence is huge. China uses twice as much energy as America for its manufacturing sector in order to create exports. Therefore, China is vulnerable to embargoes and sanctions, okay? And so what America is doing right now with this war in the Middle East by kidnapping Maduro in Venezuela, it's basically choking China off from its energy supply, okay? That's one problem. Second problem is that China is very export orientated, okay? So the entire economy is just basically on exporting manufactured goods cheaply to the rest of the world. And you can tell because most of the world's business ports are actually based in China, okay? The business is Shanghai, followed by Singapore, Ningbo, Shenzhen, Qingdao, Guangzhou. Okay, so 5 of the world's top 6 export hubs are based in China. That shows you China's dependence on exports. But if America is controlling the seas and controlling strategic choke points like the Strait of Malacca and the Strait of Hormuz and Strait of Gibraltar, Panama Canal, this creates a huge problem for China. Okay, and the third thing is how much resources China uses. China, in only 3 years' time, okay, from 2011 to 2013, used more cement than America did in 100 years. That's crazy to think about. All right?
That is fucking mental.
So this shows you how...
We talked about this the other day. China used more cement in 3 years from 2011 to 2013. I thought it was a longer period than that, than 3 years. I thought it was like 10. But used more cement in 3 years than the US did in a century, the entire 20th century. Think about that for scale, ladies and gentlemen. When everyone's like talking about how China's population is collapsing and like it can't be a bigger economy than the US if we just look at GDP and like the usual standards of measure. Like 3 years, according to this graph. But 3 years, they used more concrete, more cement than the US did in 100 years. And the level of development that the US was going through in the 20th century was huge. Let's be honest. 100 years versus 3 years. And you're going to tell me that their economy isn't as big as the Americans? I just don't know about it. I just don't know. So we've been told, right? China has a huge real estate bubble problem. Yes. Like China should have collapsed like 10 times over the last 20 years. So they keep telling us over and over and over again. But I point to a place in the world that doesn't have a real estate. Look at these cement stats. Like it is telling, you know, laugh it off. But like it is very telling. If you look at real production of value as opposed to just financial speculation, that is absolutely monstrous stuff. And in a very small time period.
Dependent China is on the global economy. It also shows you how dependent China is on the USD. Okay? Because it's only because the renminbi can be exchanged for the USD that allows China to purchase so many resources from...
Used as much cement in 3 years as America did in 100 years. I don't know about that. Unless you're referencing something else.
Abroad. All right. The reality is that China is too dependent on America. This is something that Chinese policymakers have been trying to change for the past 10 years. It doesn't work because what Chinese policymakers don't understand is that you're in a hallucination of a hallucination. Okay? You only exist because America created you. All right, so this is consumer confidence. You can see, so 2018...
That's what my argument is, 340 million versus 1.4 billion. And then to think that scale doesn't affect the size of an economy. Everything with China v. US should be 4 times the size. Okay. Interesting. So like it's only on par if it's 4 times the size of whatever the US is doing. Right. Okay. Fair enough. If that's your metric.
Is when the trade war started, okay? And at this time, people are still okay. They're still bearing the brunt of it. But then COVID happened, right? And then you saw this massive drop. And it never really recovered, guys. All right? It never really recovered. Consumer confidence. People don't believe the economy is doing well. People are not willing to buy things people aren't working, people are losing income, right? The economy is not doing well. At the same time, this is really interesting, more and more Chinese students are choosing to study abroad, even as the economy is failing. Even as though there are less opportunities to do well in China, more and more Chinese are going to America to study. And guess what? The very best are not coming back, okay? There's a gap of about 1 million students who stay in the West, and these are often the very best students, right? So I hate to say this, but if you're hallucination, you're anxious. You want to go back to the source, right? So you know the renminbi is based on US dollars. If you can change the renminbi for US dollars, you will do so. If you can flee the country, immigrate abroad, you will do so. All right, this is a pretty stark data, okay? So this shows you the current account balance. Current account just basically means how much Chinese have in the bank due to trade. This is the trade account, okay? How much Chinese actually traded. The blue tracks the current account, okay? How much Chinese have in the bank because of the trade. The red tracks the actual trade, okay? As you can see, for most of Chinese history, up until about 2022, it tracks pretty closely. But starting in 2022, there's this divergence, a huge divergence. It's about $500 billion a year, guys. Why is this happening? Capital flight, money laundering. People are using exports in order to move their money out of the country. It's a very simple thing where, okay, maybe I buy a refrigerator from you, right? It should be $500. We're good for $500, but you charge me $1,000. Why? Because then you take the $500 and you put that money on my behalf into a US real estate. You buy property or buy stocks from me, okay? Does that make sense? This is all just money laundering. Okay. So in other words, what's really driving China's export mania, a lot of it is just money laundering. As people try.
We won't tear ourselves apart. Then what, we become authoritarian, like China? You're tearing me apart, China. You're tearing me apart. You guys in Australia have a whole continent and like 28 to 30 million people. You should be the richest people on earth. Don't get them started. Watch out. People are going to get upset in the chat if you say stuff like that. All the Australian first people, you're going to be angry. These are our goddamn resources. Yes. But like what you're not counting on is we are not truly independent. We are a vassal state under politics. Yes. Yeah, we don't get to control our resources because we have sovereignty. We have to play very, very, very delicate global politics with our resources. The global system is capital.
Flee the country. Okay, so this is not good for China. All right. Another major problem in China is the household savings rate, where it's the highest in the world. Okay, the highest in the world. Why are Chinese savers? Why are they saving 40% of their income? Well, a lot of reason is because Chinese aren't that wealthy. Okay, so even though the Chinese economy has boomed these past 30, 40 years, the Chinese individual has not seen a huge improvement in his standard of living, okay? And so there is not a great confidence in the future, and that's why Chinese save a lot of their money. And there are that many investment vehicles as well. So from a US perspective, this is a great opportunity.
Jang's class would be so cozy to nap in the back of. Not a dig, it's a compliment. Eh? Yeah, it doesn't have to be like that. Don't take offense to it. It's a compliment.
Right? If Chinese are saving all this money, if you're a financier, if you're like Blackstone or BlackRock, you're like, why don't you give it to me and I'll invest the money for you and give you bigger returns, right? This is why they're here in China, because they want this. They want all that capital stored in Chinese banks, not doing anything. They're like, give it to us and we'll make you more money, okay? All right, so this shows you the capital account. All this is saying...
Whoa. that was fucking huge what he's talking about there. Like, I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge, but like anyone want to object to this one, that Chinese households, Chinese as individuals, have a very high savings rate. They do store a lot of their money in savings, unlike the rest of the world. Now, he's saying that this is because China has zero confidence in its own economy, and so they're really worried about the fact that they are second tier to the US or the US dollar, and so they don't have confidence, so they save a lot. Like, if he likes to use historical analogies, like traditionally countries in the West, like 100 years ago, had very high savings rates because people found value in saving, because then they could use that money to actually purchase things. They didn't live on credit. If he wants to talk about hallucinations, brainwashing, and propaganda, we have been propagandized incredibly in the West to look at the idea of household saving negatively and think that it's just a shit go. And beyond that, we've been convinced to live in a credit system, like with credit cards and afterpay and finance and all this sort of stuff. And so, like, saving is not necessary, and it's not something that's encouraged. So if Chinese people are saving and like they have less of a financialized structure and a consumer market that is rather predatory in a banking setting, their banking system is very different to that of the West. His like overarching and sweeping statement is that Chinese people are saving because they're savvy, and they don't trust the Chinese Communist Party to manage the economy. I would say that they haven't got the same predatory institutions that is finance capital in the West, and China has done an extremely good job of protecting their citizenry away from financial structures that do trap everybody in credit debt. Actually, they've probably done a lot of work to make sure that they don't prey on their own people like that. Their own financial institutions don't do that. But I think what the most amazing observation there, apart from his very overarching and sweeping analysis of the Chinese household, is how he's like, reality is they do have a large savings rate. So they got a lot of extra capital sitting in the banks. And that's why the American Wall Street people were over there, like especially BlackRock and Blackstone, people like that. Like, they were there because they want Chinese people not to save their money. They want them to invest it in Wall Street. Invest in us, invest all your money in Wall Street, and we'll get richer. And like, you'll make some money on some shares. Hey? China is now, after saving the world economy, potentially a couple of times, but definitely in 2008, is now going to save or be forced by Wall Street to help save the American economy if Wall Street goes down. There's been a lot of speculation, or there was so much. Remember this time last year, all that everyone was talking about was like, there's going to be a financial crash. There's going to be a financial crash. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. And everyone was like basing it on AI as well. If the AI bubble finally pops, it'll be the thing that finally brings down the American financial system or Wall Street and have a cascading effect and bring down the entire world economy, and we'll all be in not even just a recession, but like a depression of some sort. And like, that was the non-stop talk 12 months ago, and now no one really talks about it at all. And so what he's speculating on is the idea that maybe that's why these American Wall Street types were there, or they're supporting Trump, is because they're going to come and negotiate to get access to China's savings, so it can be funneled straight into Wall Street. And the rich get richer. Especially evident in the younger gens buying everything on finance and salary sacrifice. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Well, China has more snake oil salesmen than anyone else. They make our banks look like Goldilocks. They trust Wall Street with their cash more than they do with their own banks. China has something called capital control. They don't let people freely take the money out. Yes, that's what he's talking about, yeah. But like what he's also talking about though is that you have people like BlackRock. BlackRock. Rubbing their hands together, trying to get access to those savings. And China has controls not only to stop people from leaving, but it's also to help against foreign capital, I would say. The high amount of savings is 100% due to the lack of any social safety nets and the high flux of cost of goods and education. It makes you need to save. And like, where do you get this assertion that there is no safety nets in China and a high cost of goods? Because the stuff that we've witnessed here is completely the opposite to that. This is literally from AI. Okay. Because that is not what we have witnessed here. Ask Google that China has no safety net. I don't. I don't know if I can really back that up. I don't think I've ever heard anyone make that assertion before. Let me quote it properly. I have heard it stated that the reason why China has a high savings rate in its population is because they have a basic lack of any social safety net and a high cost of goods and education. Very briefly, can you explain whether or not you support this assertion? It's widely supported by economists. A major factor is that many Chinese households feel that they must self-insure against future risks because China's social safety net is less comprehensive than in many Western countries. Health costs, retirement security, unemployment, housing, and especially education costs for children. As a result, families often have to pay a very large portion of their income as a precaution. There are also additional structural reasons: historically limited consumer credit, cultural norms favoring thrift and responsibility, very high housing costs, and an economy for decades prioritized investment and exports over. So the claim is directionally correct. Weaker welfare protections and expensive life necessities are considered major drivers in China's usual high household savings rate. But economists would usually describe it as one important part of a broader economic and cultural system rather than a single explanation. The healthcare coupon doesn't cover true illness. Just like you say Americans spend so much, China have to spend even more relatively, though I have free healthcare in the great state of Massachusetts. Australia's healthcare system is similar to China's, but China's is better. Bunker Cat just spoke about the Chinese healthcare system. It's better than ours. Yeah, this is like a complete disparity. Like, he's talking about hallucinations and propaganda. Like, there is completely divergent understandings of how the same health system is run. Isn't propaganda very interesting? We have two completely polar opposite understandings. China's healthcare system is completely expensive and out of reach, causing savings, incentivizing savings for the average person. And then another story where it's just amazing. This is very interesting. And this is all coming from economists. Yes, supported by economists. Western economists. I'm sure they only have good stuff to say.
Is that you can't actually convert your RMB into other currencies. So most countries have full open capital accounts, okay? The black is most countries. The bottom quarter of nations have closed accounts, and China is part of the quarter that have closed accounts, okay? So Chinese can actually take their money and leave the country. Okay, so the other thing that I want you guys to understand is, from a US perspective, there's still a lot of potential in China. And the reason why is China still has a lot of debt capacity. Debt capacity just means your ability to carry debt.
That's fucked. That is so fucked. If that's why Trump has brought these massive Wall Street people over to China, because like he's like, come on, Xi, give me access. Come on. We want to debt trap your Chinese population. Like, that's fucked. Like, I don't care what political leanings you have. Debt trapping people for the sake of a billionaire class is fucked. Absolutely fucked. Oh, it comes to rights. America has base human rights like the right to defense, rights to keep the government in check, while China focuses on human rights like housing, less on individual rights. Different strokes for different folks. Well, apparently, according to Shang-Chi and Spandog's research here, they didn't even have human rights, like housing dilemmas. That's what's going on here.
Why? Because China doesn't have much debt relative to other nations. Look at this, okay? China, in terms of like assets and liabilities, don't have much invested abroad. You compare that with like other countries like Japan, United States, Germany, United Kingdom. They have a lot invested abroad. China doesn't have that much invested abroad. So in theory, you can encourage the Chinese to buy more things abroad, which would help the global economy, right? In theory. Now, what's interesting is that China doesn't invest much abroad relative to other rich nations, but China doesn't invest much abroad relative to all nations, okay? So this is China. It's not the same as India, which doesn't have that much capital. Like if Indonesia, Turkey, Mexico actually invest more abroad than China does. Brazil, Russia, Saudi Arabia invest a lot. South Africa invests a lot more than China, okay? So again, from a US financial perspective, China is the last great opportunity in the world. That's why they're coming here, okay? They want to strike a deal where they can financialize the Chinese economy. Basically use the Chinese economy as collateral to engage in financial speculation everywhere in the world, okay? So let me explain how they're gonna do so. All right, so China has a closed capital account. Why do you have a closed capital account? Because you know for a fact that if you open it, Chinese take your RMB and convert it all into US dollars. All right? And that causes your economy to collapse, your bank system to collapse. So what's the solution here? Okay, first of all, we need to understand something, and this is like really important for you guys to appreciate. Banks create money out of thin air. Okay? Money is just an illusion. So the example is, let's just say you're a depositor, and you put $1 million into a bank. Okay? And the way the bank makes money is by lending to entrepreneurs, right? So you then, as a bank, you give $1 million a loan to a restaurant entrepreneur. Okay? And this is how banks work. And you think that, okay, well, if the deposit put $1 million in the bank, and the bank then loans it to the restaurant entrepreneur, then in theory, the bank should have zero in the bank, right? No, the bank now has $2 million. Okay? The banks are allowed, according to accounting, they're allowed to create money every time they issue a loan. So not only they keep that $1 million from the depositor, but they also are able to print $1 million to give to the restaurant entrepreneur. Yes. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, the little OKs and the. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. Do you guys want to know why this is the case? Okay, I'll tell you anyway, okay? All right. Okay.
I'll tell you anyway.
So before, what were banks? Banks were just merchants, okay? A merchant alliance. Why? Because merchants needed capital in order to trade. So they came together and they created their own bank. Okay, so they were an alliance. And so what merchants would do is basically deposit their gold into this alliance so that it can be distributed elsewhere. Okay? Now the problem with gold is that it's heavy, it's hard to transport. It's also dangerous because you're pirates, okay? So the way that they use gold in order to
They're
create
definitely pirates today as well. Eh? Trump has been speaking about how much he loves pirates. Is Yang hitting the texters so hard to try and Morse code? He's in danger. Arrgh. Yes. Hey, it's a little thing called piracy. It's very profitable, actually.
exchanges in order to create business is they use receipts or contracts. So rather than me give you the gold physically, I just give you a piece of paper saying that I guarantee that this paper can be redeemed for gold at my bank. Okay, does that make sense? All right, and then you have to keep track of these exchanges. So they create something called double entry bookkeeping, which is basically assets and liabilities. Okay, and that's double entry bookkeeping. It's something that we still use today. So let's just say I have $1 million in gold. Okay, well that's easy. I just put it into assets, right? Okay? Then someone comes and says, I need to borrow $1 million of gold. I'm like, fine, I'll give you a receipt for it. Now the problem, my problem is, do I put the receipt in liabilities or assets? Assets, of course, right? And that's how the system works. And so it's a system we still use today. That's why banks are allowed to create money out of thin air, because of double entry bookkeeping. Okay, are you guys clear about this? Yeah?
Is it because that the banks have powers to print money when they make loans?
Come on, I don't want to get a banking lesson. Talk about China, like, for fuck's sake.
Some people deposit into the life.
It's not that hard, okay? I have gold. I put the gold into gold, okay? Is this money a debt or a liability? Okay, does that make sense? All right, so now this becomes the basis of the global banking system, all right? So let me show you how. All right, so what happens is this. You have these banks in America, in the world. They're private banks. They're run by private people who put all their money in the banks, okay? You have the US government. You have the government. Okay, the US government does not have any money. The US government wants to borrow money. The question then is like, how do you borrow money? If you borrow money from these banks individually, that's too hard, okay? So what happens is this. What happens is, in 1913, the banks got together and created something called the Federal Reserve, all right? Federal Reserve, it's not hard. It's just a cartel of private banks in America. Okay, do you understand? Now the US government can just work with the Federal Reserve and borrow money directly from the Federal Reserve, which represents all the banks in America. Okay? So how does the US government borrow money from the Federal Reserve? It issues bonds. That's called US Treasuries.
It's close. I don't know if he's... It's very basic, though, what he's talking. He doesn't fully understand what he's saying about the finance and economics. Yeah, it's very, very basic. But like the very broad macro picture of it is generally right, though. Why is he using that digital pen like it's fucking chalk? Okay, it finally got to me. You and Ravy. It's finally under my skin. It really is more like Chinese Nostradamus. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, idiot.
Now the US government can just work with the Federal Reserve and borrow money directly from banks in America. Okay, do you understand? Now the US government can just work with the Federal Reserve and borrow money directly from the Federal Reserve, which represents all the banks in America. Okay? So how does the US government borrow money from the Federal Reserve? It issues bonds. That's called US Treasuries. Okay? So the Federal Reserve can print money to buy US Treasuries, and then this money goes to the US government, and the US government can then pay for expenses. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Now, this system is fine. The problem is that the US government spends a lot of money. It fights wars. It wants to send men to the moon. It wants people to have a good life, okay? So today, America has $39 trillion in debt. And you're like, well, who cares? Well, the problem is this. The problem is the interest rate, which is about 5%. Okay? Because in order to get the Federal Reserve, these private banks, to lend you the money, you have to give them an interest rate. Otherwise, why would they lend you the money, right? Okay, so in other words, 5% means that the US government has to pay the Federal Reserve about $2 trillion a year. Where's it going to get $2 trillion a year? It has to borrow more money from the Federal Reserve. All right, so this system is really, really unstable. So now your problem is like, how do I solve this problem? You solve this problem by getting more people to buy US Treasuries. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so you can get
Even though Jiang is only a high school teacher, he does have an interesting take. It's interesting. It is interesting. If nothing else, it is not the usual run-of-the-mill take, especially that you get out of our fucking manufacturing consent machine, our propaganda machine. Welcome back.
Governments to buy US Treasuries, including the Chinese government, the Japanese government, the UK government, okay? And that's what's been happening. The problem is they only have a certain amount of money they can borrow. So how do you get rid of this problem? You get rid of this problem by getting more people to buy US Treasuries. And who are these people? Everyone in the world. You, me, everyone in the world. Okay? This is what we call retail. So previously, it was only institutions that want to buy US Treasuries. And what the strategy now is to get everyone to buy US Treasuries. How? You create a new financial mechanism called stable coins. Okay, stable coins. And the two most popular stable coins are something called Tether and Circle. Okay? And the idea is very simple. The idea is stable coins are backed by US Treasuries. Meaning, Tether and Circle have to buy US Treasuries in order to sell stable coins. And they can sell stable coins to anyone and everyone, okay? Including in China.
Anything printed on paper is worthless? Well, it's not even about that anymore, apparently. It's about some type of cryptocurrency, digital currency. I knew this dude was going to get into crypto. I think you did call that ages ago, right? Dude is holding a negative crypto bag. But yeah. Just bring up something unconnected and then move on quickly. The pattern again.
Which has 40% savings rate. How? Through institutions like Apple, BlackRock, Visa. Okay, does this make sense? Now you get around the problem of the closed capital account. Closed capital account means you cannot use renminbi to buy US dollars. But with stable coins, you can now use renminbi to buy Tether or Circle. Do you understand? Okay? So now what the US government is going to do is they're going to transfer that debt onto the Chinese people. Okay? Okay, and so you're...
That's a very interesting theory, you got to admit, that there is a workaround. That's why we had all of those fucking Wall Street types and tech bros hanging around at this meeting potentially, because they figured out some type of workaround to get Chinese savers to be able to invest and buy up American dollars indirectly, because they'll have access to buying into cryptos and digital currency, as opposed to directly having to buy American dollars. It's an interesting theory. Very interesting theory. I can understand why kids are the only ones who follow that logic, but the fact that the state let him do this is wild, LOL. What state? Is he backed by a government? Or like lets him speak because he's a teacher, is that what you mean? It's breaking down geopolitics and economics into simple terms, but it's not simple. Unfortunately, crypto, we don't want to buy it. Well, if it's a workaround to get access to a Chinese consumer base, if that's what he's speculating on here. That's very interesting. Yeah, he teaches for the Chinese state. Ah, okay. Right. Okay. Interesting. All right, I actually have to leave it there because I got to bounce now. We'll have to finish this one off tomorrow. But that is a really interesting concept, though, that is bringing into the fold here. The idea that, yeah, to get access to a Chinese market, you do it through like a stable coin or something like that. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Thank you for everyone who's been hanging out today. Do appreciate it. I think I got a super chat as well today. I'm pretty sure that was Govan, I want to say. Thank you very much for that. Do appreciate it. Govan, St. Chi, Spandonk, Wookie, Dilemmas. China banned crypto years ago, but like this is the thing. Is that why Trump and the boys were there to open them back onto the market? I guess we'll find out whenever they announce what they really talked about. But I guess we'll never know. Bandsaw Bandit, next time. Ravy Baby, Dilemmas, St. Chi, Govan, Spandonk. Who else I got here? Heidi the Sausage, hanging out all day today. Oh, it's just the afternoon session we had. I started late today. Who have I missed? Wookiees. What else we got? Who we got here? Chelsea Clinton. What else I got? Matt Bond came in for a little bit today as well. Sarsaparilla Jane was hanging out. Jamesh. That's as far as I can go back. All right. Thank you, everybody. Do appreciate it. And we will be back tomorrow with some more. So until then, please remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery. See you on the morrow.